Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. At 3 o'clock, the president makes an announcement on the beautiful clean coal from the White House. And according to Bloomberg, the president is expected to announce nearly $700 million in new federal support for the U.S. coal industry. So that's coming up at the top of the hour. Also at about 3 o'clock, that's when it's scheduled for. So if it starts on time, we'll take you to the White House. If not, we do have the West Virginia Coal Association president will be joining us at that time as well. We can record that interview if needed, but we'll be glad to share that with you, as today is a day about energy independence, and also specifically coal. Also, we are 1 month from the 4th of July, of course, so 30 days out, as we will have live coverage from Washington, D.C. to celebrate America's independence. So you can stick with conservative media right here, Right Side Broadcasting Network, for that coverage next month. As many know, artificial intelligence is a hot topic of discussion these days, whether you're for it or against it or in the middle or just don't know. Let's take a look at a video from Infrastructure AI.
Global infrastructure is the foundation of modern life. Buildings, factories, utilities, and cities, representing over $100 trillion in assets. Yet most of this critical infrastructure is still run manually, with siloed data, limited visibility, trust gaps between stakeholders, and constant friction. Operational intelligence is trapped, decisions are slow, and the true value of these assets remains hidden from capital markets. Infrastructure AI is changing this. We're building the first autonomous infrastructure operating system for the physical world. Our 6-pillar platform turns infrastructure into autonomous, self-optimizing, economically active systems. An agentic operating system coordinates thousands of specialized AI agents across infrastructure systems, with governance, compliance, and secure control at scale. An agent workforce that captures scarce engineering expertise and deploys it globally as a continuously improving digital workforce. A blockchain ecosystem that delivers verifiable identity and an immutable audit trail for every asset and action. A cryptocurrency token layer that aligns incentives, rewards contribution, and powers value exchange across the ecosystem. A fintech engine that transforms operational data into performance-based financing and new revenue streams. And an infrastructure marketplace that turns insights into action, sourcing providers, executing smart contracts, and verifying outcomes. The result? Lower costs, scalable expertise, performance-based financing, and global markets for infrastructure data. Our vision is to become the global operating system for physical infrastructure, where infrastructure operates, transacts, and is financed. Infrastructure AI.
All right, so infrastructure AI, right? A lot of questions about AI these days. We hear a lot of President Trump talking about it, the vice president, that kind of thing. So really, what is it all about when it comes to infrastructure? Let's bring in Dilip Rahul on right now. He's the co-founder of Infrastructure AI. Easy to say it, 3 times fast. But anyway, thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you for having me. Infrastructure AI is actually an evolution into the whole fraternity of everything mankind is considered as habitat and functional aspects of lifestyle. So fundamentally, we have gone through hundreds of years of evolution within the framework of infrastructure. And what we see today is a turning point in the history of how infrastructure is going to be influenced by technology in a completely different dimension, because technology has always been inherent in buildings. And the concept of AI is completely new when it comes to mankind overall. And that's the reason why everybody in the fraternity is actually trying to talk about it and see how it influences lifestyle. So fundamentally, what Infrastructure AI as a company is looking at is the concept of how to adopt that nascent technology within the framework of buildings, infrastructure, in particular reference to a whole city, everything that is connected to it, facilitate and enable the whole operations of infrastructure.
Okay.
And
So we saw that video off the top there, and we've heard of smart cities before. And really, what happens when buildings become intelligent, in your opinion?
fundamentally, it's able to become a living entity in terms of its functionality. It's bringing intelligence into every device that's within the building and enabling it to interact with each other in an efficient, dynamic manner that it's able to take into consideration real time activities of influencing its ecosystem.
So, the opportunities and the risks of autonomous infrastructure, can you share with us some of that as well? And just to let the people know watching right now, again, I started out this broadcast with whether you're for it, against it, or in the middle, or don't know. This is obviously something that is happening in our world right now, artificial intelligence, and specifically with this company here, Infrastructure AI. So I just wanted to bring on the guests here to kind of share with us what the future may look like when it comes to certain things. So, sir, once again, the opportunities and risks of autonomous infrastructure.
Autonomous infrastructure actually has this phenomenal positive side, which brings about bringing enhanced efficiency and cost savings in operating a building. If you look at the landscape of today's energy infrastructure, more than 40% of the energy produced in the country is consumed by infrastructure, by buildings, and everything related to its ecosystem. And that actually, there is statistics that have been from the Department of Energy, which clarifies that 30% of the energy consumed within buildings are wasted. Fundamentally, because we do not have systems that actually can manage them in an optimal manner, coordinating with the different multiple silos of systems within the building. You could notice that from a building's environment, it's got so many functionalities that are not interrelated. So the intelligence layer that comes in with AI enables the disparate systems within a building to coordinate with each other and function as one single entity. And bringing intelligence to the building, what it really translates is to make it operate functionally in real time. The ability to respond to situations that occur within the building, within the mechanical equipment, electrical equipment, to ensure that there is spontaneous response to mitigate any eventuality that can actually bring down the system or let it run at lower efficiencies. Again, having the heartbeat of the system, AI is able to literally enable, just like the human being's heartbeat, monitor the full functionality of the building in its entirety.
So we're talking about any kind of building here, government buildings, hospitals, schools, whoever is down with having AI as part of their building, right? Is that how that works for you guys and contracting and all that? Is that how that all works?
Absolutely. Our approach has been to facilitate the concept of AI into the whole building fraternity. However, there are certain constraints that obviously in the market you have different types of buildings, different uh, buildings of the age of the building really determines what kind of technology it runs on. But fundamentally, every building is built to ensure that there is the fundamental concept of healthy building, facilitating functionality of making human comfort available within the building so that it can house that particular functionality. As you rightly said, the spectrum is quite immense. You have healthcare, you have hospitality, you have government infrastructure, you have office buildings, you have home and habitat. All these are disparate systems in its own rights because they operate in different modularities. However, in order to ensure that AI is available to facilitate the transformation of bringing intelligence into the building, we have come out with a strategy that would allow any building owner anywhere in the world to download our platform and enable an opportunity to experience that. And that process is done with a very unique process where we are helping every building owner to download our application to build a digital twin. Now, this is a whole paradigm shift. You're able to create a simulative environment of your building using the agents that are provided in our platform and create an opportunity to test the functions that you develop jointly with the agent. The agent is then able to create certain advisory scenarios for you. You're going to run it on your digital twin, ensure that you're happy with it and it's safe. Then you can transport it within the building. This is a free software opportunity that we are offering as a freebie service that would enable every building owner to adapt to it. In that process, we are also offering them multitude of services that would enhance the opportunity for a company like us to have a revenue model.
This is wild. This is all information. A lot of people are just probably scratching their heads like, really, we're in the robotics era or the robotics age, the AI age, just at the really beginning of it, the genesis really in a lot of ways to at least the mainstream thought when it comes to people either getting used to it, rejecting it. However, I'm not saying if I'm for, against, or indifferent about it. I just want to know more about it. That's why I'm glad to have you on here to kind of show us and talk to us about this. So, of course, this is Dilip Rahulan. He's the co-founder of Infrastructure AI. So, Director, if we can do this, let's play that video once more, and then we'll be also continuing the conversation with the other co-founder, Glenn Allmendinger, coming up here in just a little bit.
The greatest military advantage the United States has.
Global infrastructure is the foundation of modern life. Factories, utilities, and cities, representing over $100 trillion in assets. Yet most of this critical infrastructure is still run manually, with siloed data, limited visibility, trust gaps between stakeholders, and constant friction. Operational intelligence is trapped. Decisions are slow, and the true value of these assets remains hidden from capital markets. Infrastructure AI is changing this. We're building the first autonomous infrastructure operating system for the physical world. Our 6-pillar platform turns infrastructure into autonomous, self-optimizing, economically active systems. An agentic operating system coordinates thousands of specialized AI agents across infrastructure systems, with governance, compliance, and secure control at scale. An agent workforce that captures scarce engineering expertise and deploys it globally as a continuously improving digital workforce. A blockchain ecosystem that delivers verifiable identity and an immutable audit trail for every asset and action. A cryptocurrency token layer that aligns incentives, rewards contribution, and powers value exchange across the ecosystem. A fintech engine that transforms operational data into performance-based financing and new revenue streams. And an infrastructure marketplace that turns insights into action, sourcing providers, executing smart contracts, and verifying outcomes. The result? Lower costs, scalable expertise, performance-based financing, and global markets for infrastructure data. Our vision is to become the global operating system for physical infrastructure, where infrastructure operates, transacts, and is financed. Infrastructure AI.
All right, so we're just diving into some AI stuff here, guys. I'm not an expert at all. We're just interviewing some people that are part of this company here. Before we get to the other co-founder and ask a few questions, let's go to mypillow.com/RSBN. Of course, great sponsor here on Right Side, and there you go. The Father's Day sale. Look at the great prices that you're seeing there. Specifically, we also see that the premium MyPillows are on sale right now for $19.98. You see that here specifically. Also, the Giza Dream Sheets. We're seeing that they are also more than 50% off. You also have that $29.98 for that as well. So a lot going on there specifically for mypillow.com/RSBN. Also, if you'd like to donate to Right Side, let's go to rsbnetwork.com/donate for that information, rsbnetwork.com/donate. All right, let's get back to some more AI discussion here. Of course, we're going to be seeing the president a little bit later. We have a lot of interviews coming up. Let's go to Glenn Allmendinger, also the co-founder of Infrastructure AI. Hope I got the last name right. I was trying before, and well, here we are.
You did it perfect. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, definitely. So why the next AI revolution is moving into physical infrastructure? So can you talk to us about that? I mean, has this happened yet, or are we 5 years away from this? What's the scoop?
Well, I think probably the easiest way to characterize this is infrastructure systems, building smart buildings, transportation systems, big venues, all these things have become much more digital over the last several years, but I wouldn't say they've become that much more intelligent. And so largely it's a very operator-driven world. If you really want to go back in history, think of the guy sitting off the lobby of the hotel looking at a bank of monitors, security monitors, and you scratching your head and wondering if that person spends his whole 8-hour day staring at those monitors. By not being more intelligent and saying a lot of it's operator and human mediated, and so therefore it's not really automation. It's more like I monitor things, I can then react to those things, and then I have to deploy, essentially work instructions or a response to whatever the state of something is. Introducing AI and agents into this obviously drives a little bit of uneasiness and trepidation on the part of people, but in fact, these agents, if you look at them like a workforce, like an army of subject matter experts on climate in the building, on air and quality of the environment in the building, all the way back to just simple operating things that don't waste energy. How when you turn on things and turn off things to utilize energy, all of that can be automated with agents acting essentially like a workforce, like your own workforce, and one that's very tuned to the state of these systems. And because of auditability and governance, I don't want to say this solves 100% of everybody's trepidation about AI, but because you can audit everything an agent does and know everything it did do, that you have tools to simulate how the agent might act in a given circumstance or under certain conditions. There are a lot of guardrails, if you will, that I think will help facilitate the ease of adoption of these technologies.
So can you share with us what smart cities could look like over the next decade? What would that look like if if you're in the Tesla or if you're in an electric vehicle and you're in the right side of the car there and it's autonomous driving and you're just heading through a smart city, what would we see?
Well, you'd be in fewer traffic jams because all of these agents would have a lot better awareness and be able to respond more adaptively to the movement of people through those cities. In a building context, as an occupant, it can tune the environment to particular groups' interests, whether it's temperature or lighting or other environmental qualities. Things can be much more responsive. I'm not going to sit on the phone all day trying to talk to chatbots about, trying to get my HVAC system fixed. It can probably happen pretty automatically as long as the permissioning and the audit trail and the governance are in place to do that. And so whether it's being able to predict maintenance, whether it's being able to reduce traffic congestion, whether it's just, the flow of life and the quality of life are becoming, I think, will become much better because just the high degree of awareness that these systems will inform.
So when somebody looks at AI, the way I look at AI right now is AI can be used for really good things, whether it's in education or in hospitals or maybe in infrastructure, that kind of thing. And then the other side of the coin, people are saying, well, it could be used by, Big Brother watching through a robot or through this or that. And then also in the iRobot, fantasy world of robots, doing evil. So how do you see that? Do you have to kind of explain this to people? Are they concerned? Do they share those concerns? Or is everyone like, yay, AI, yay, our life will be easier, let's do it?
No, I think it's a lot more people are on the fence on this and don't really understand it completely yet. And so, I think education and showing people what the guardrails are that underlie the way these systems will operate, I think is an important educational step and really just having a more mature dialogue about where these technologies belong and where maybe they don't belong. And, to the extreme is, do you want AI conducting wars? I find that very scary. But would I like AI to help me run the traffic system in my city or the quality of the environment in my building? Absolutely. I think it's a very attractive set of opportunities and solutions that can occur, that can impact a lot of people on a day-to-day basis in a very meaningful way.
In your situation there with infrastructure AI, if there is a building that has your, is it software or your capabilities there, and I don't know, I mean, we deal with DDoS attacks, the cyber attacks, that kind of thing. Do you have someone that's, overseeing the AI? I mean, is that how it will work in general, whether it's with your company, or how do you see that whole process?
Think of the adoption of AI as progressive. I can test drive it and pilot it in areas that have little danger or little consequence as a result of things not going well, right? I can take another step where I may run a system like the HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems in a building, which is not likely to kill anybody, but I can still have what people call human in the loop. In other words, that there is some human observation of what's going on and some kind of cross-checking and validation that the systems are working correctly. Those two steps precede what you would call fully autonomous, like getting in the Waymo car and going to the airport with no driver. And all these simulation tools, these guardrails, the ability to have an audit trail for everything that's ever done, all these things are meant to essentially drive that progression to, choices made to deploy that kind of autonomous family of agents to do these things consciously, but well prepared and well understood.
All right, we'll see how it all pans out. Glenn Allman-Dinger, the co-founder of Infrastructure AI. Thanks again for joining us, you and Dilip as well.
Thank you so much.
Definitely.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of questions out there, right? When it comes to artificial intelligence, what's it really going to look like? How's it going to be? Is it going to take all of these jobs? It may. What are we going to do? I'm just, watching it here with you guys as well. And seeing a lot of this infrastructure happen, the AI centers that are being built across the country and in some places across the world. So, we want to know more about it. So there you go. So we talked to a couple of the co-founders of Infrastructure AI. All right, let's go to All Family Pharmacy in the meantime. June is here. And of course, finally, because you know what that means, traveling, vacation, the kids are out of school, and you're running around like a wild person. And of course, as the head of your family, you need to make sure everything is ready to go. You have food stocked, drinks stocked, but did you ever get or forget anyone's medicine? Did you get your son's antibiotics or your wife's allergy meds? Well, the last thing you want in the middle of a vacation is to need medications that you can't get. That's why All Family Pharmacy is here. Be prepared with everyday prescriptions, emergency medications, and more. From hormone and thyroid support to weight loss, energy, antibiotics, antivirals, even anti-aging and hair support, it's all in one place. You order online and they handle everything for you without the runaround, which is very nice to see. They even take care of the doctor's prescription if you don't have one, and will ship everything directly to your door. So get what you need now so you don't have to worry later. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN and use code RSBN10 today and get prepared for summer. Again, that's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN with that promo code RSBN10 for 10% off. Let's go from one great sponsor to another. Right there, Birch Gold Group, because for the first time since World War II, our national debt held by the public has exceeded GDP. So we know that this is a wake-up call for our country. The crucial mistakes of the past, specifically reckless government spending, have really caught up with us. So what's next? Is it higher inflation, higher prices, higher cost of living expenses, and higher interest payments on the national debt? Every dollar Washington spends on interest is a dollar it has to tax, borrow, or print. Smart retirement planners prepare for potential setbacks, and they can do that by diversifying with a time-tested asset known for weathering the storm. Physical gold from our trusted friends at Birch Gold Group. All you have to do to get everything started, text the word Trump to that number you see on your screen there, 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Of course, you don't pull the ripcord on your parachute once you've already hit the ground. So don't wait for an economic situation, maybe turbulence economically, to diversify. Text Trump to that number, 989898. Again, Trump to 989898, and own some gold from Birch Gold. All right, it is 2:26, approaching that bottom of the hour right now here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We'll be seeing the president at the top of the hour. We'll have a lot more coming up right after the break.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go to clip one to start off our broadcast post the AI introduction. As President Trump said the following on Truth Social, quote, "There's big cheating by the Democrats in California. Votes are all tied up. May not be in for weeks. Under investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles. Why the vote counting delay? Question mark, question mark, question mark. President DJT." Great question. Why the delay? Why do we have more than, 24 hours? This is not voting month. They have a primary. It's on June 2nd. In California, it's now June 4th. You know what I mean? And we hope that the right outcome will happen when it comes to that situation there, when it comes to the mayoral race with Spencer Pratt, Steve Hilton there as the possible governor of California. We'll see what happens. Of course, the president also referring to those two races in that Truth Social post. Speaking of the commander-in-chief, he'll be in Wisconsin tomorrow hosting a roundtable, which starts at 4 o'clock Eastern time. You can see that right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Of course, join us for the pre-show, which usually is about an hour, hour and a half, or even 2 hours early. We have a lot of interviews and various things to talk about within the 24/7 news cycle, so we hope you'll join us tomorrow, as it will be Friday, June 5th, getting closer day by day as we're 30 days away from America 250. Meantime, the Secretary of War recently had this to say about the Project Patriot pipeline in clip number 2.
The greatest military advantage the United States has is our warfighters. Highly skilled, highly trained, and adaptable. President Trump and this War Department recognize the strategic alignment between military training while in service and then developing a career path when you become a civilian. And there are key priorities for this department and the nation that require a workforce with the advanced skills that our service men and women possess while in uniform. Keeping and developing talent that contributes to our priorities like shipbuilding or the Golden Dome or next generation aircraft or munitions, it's vital to our nation's and our military's continued success. Now, we recognize that there's a gap. The need for a unifying framework that connects service members, military spouses, and federal civilians with the American Defense Industrial Base. One of the priorities of our national defense strategy, we have to have the best defense industrial base in the world. And that is why this War Department has directed, and our Undersecretary of War for Personnel and Readiness has developed a plan. It's called Project Patriot Pipeline. And that plan connects service members, military spouses, federal civilians, and young people to mission-critical jobs and career development opportunities in the defense industrial base. Great jobs, great pay. The plan establishes new strategic partnerships focused on the skilled trades and strengthens the training and education for critical skills that are already a part of our defense workforce to ensure they remain aligned to our national security needs. Project Patriot Pipeline will strengthen our national security by shaping a highly skilled workforce and preparing our nation to meet the challenges ahead. Think of our best troops translating their service into the private sector in the defense industrial base. That's Project Patriot Pipeline. The War Department and the military departments will synchronize vital workforce development programs like tuition and credentialing assistance and Skill Bridge, as well as enhanced spouse employment programs, enabling our warriors, spouses, and civilians to focus on and acquire in-demand skills tied to real-world needs. Right now, visit mypatriotcareer.mil to learn more. More patriots, more firepower, more opportunities to continue to serve. Project Patriot Pipeline is a strategic investment in our greatest asset, the American workforce.
All right, so from the U.S. Department of War, as you see that live picture there in Washington, D.C., you see, of course, the Washington Monument, the White House, and panning over, I believe that's, I would say, the Supreme Court right now. But anyway, I don't want to guess too loudly as we just see a panning roaming camera there in Washington, D.C. All right, let's do this. Let's go to Kalshi.com/RSBN. Of course, great sponsor here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. You see the QR code right there on your screen. Also, Kalshi.com/RSBN or download the Kalshi app. Of course, 3 ways to get to Kalshi. A lot of people still talking about the mayoral race in Los Angeles and also the gubernatorial race in California. And across the union right now, you have a number of primaries that just took place yesterday, as many know, throughout those 6 states. And if you're not looking at politics today, if you just want to look at some sports or music or faith or weather, whatever, really, you can, because there's more than 1 million users on there, either betting, trading, or just checking out all the polls for Kalshi.com/RSBN. Also, there's an interesting study out there with Cove Pier. You may have seen this. Apparently, researchers have been documenting male fish developing female characteristics in rivers all across our country. So how in the world is that happening? Well, it comes from birth control pills that wastewater treatment plants can't fully filter out, and it's in the same water that runs into your home. So if you're a man watching right now, or you have sons, grandsons, or loved ones out there in your life, this isn't something you can ignore, because that's why it's so important to use Cove Pure to purify your water. So here's how this actually works. When people take medication, their bodies don't absorb all of it. The rest gets flushed, goes through wastewater treatment, and those plants were never built to catch pharmaceutical compounds. So estrone from birth control pills or antibiotics, antidepressants, they just come right back out of your tap. Your standard pitcher filter from the store isn't going to cut it here. These compounds are just too small and too persistent. You need something that can filter things at a molecular level, and that's exactly what Cove Pure is. Their Clearwave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. So estrone or fluoride, PFAs, lead, arsenic, basically anything that isn't water gets filtered out. So unlike traditional reverse osmosis systems, Cove Pure couldn't be easier to set up. You just put it on your counter, fill it up with water, and plug it in. And the best part is it lets you select whatever temperature you want. Hot water for your tea and coffee, cold water for the gym, warm water for baby bottles, and one tap in, you get that all instantly. So, of course, those fish didn't have a choice about what was in their water, but you do. So go to covepure.com/RSBN right now and get that $250 off. That's covepure.com/RSBN. As we are live here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, thank you so much for live streaming with us here on the network. We'll see the president at the top of the hour from the White House making an announcement about beautiful coal. And of course, we'll have some great people joining us here a little bit later on the network as well. So thanks for sticking with us. And let's go, speaking of the president, he's renamed the historic Secretary of State suite in the White House complex after an American legend. Let's go to the great patriot Peter Navarro to explain.
Of the early great American leaders, there is one who does not get enough credit: Henry Clay. He was Speaker of the House, a senator, and Secretary of State. And it was Henry Clay who helped shape the early republic at a moment when its survival was far from guaranteed. And Henry Clay understood a hard truth the country had already begun to learn. Political liberty cannot survive atop economic dependency. The War of 1812 made that reality unmistakable. Foreign supply chains collapsed, so did America's sense of security. A nation that cannot produce what it needs is a vulnerable nation. So Henry Clay asked a simple question, one that still echoes today. Does this policy make America stronger? Henry Clay's answer was the American system. With this American system, Clay took up Alexander Hamilton's mantle and embraced tariffs to build industry, finance to fuel growth, and infrastructure to bind a sprawling continent into a single economic unit. These policies turned the United States from a small infant country into the world's most powerful economy. But over the decades, Washington drifted. We outsourced our strength and called it progress. We forgot the lessons that our country, that Henry Clay, had learned right from the start. Because to Henry Clay, the principle was simple. A nation that cannot make what it needs will not remain sovereign. Now, that tradition is returning. On the occasion of Henry Clay's 249th birthday, President Donald Trump has brought him back into the White House complex itself by naming a historic conference room and suite after this great patriot, visionary, and tariff man. This is not just a name on a door, but a living reminder. Economic nationalism isn't new. It isn't foreign. It is American. It is Henry Clay.
All right, so an update there from Peter Navarro regarding the White House there, specifically when it comes to the new State Department room there. All right, so let's do this. We're going to go to one of our sponsors here, right on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Of course, All Family Pharmacy, the owner, Michael Kunzler, joining us right now. Michael, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Definitely. All right, let's talk about June, because obviously a lot of people getting ready to take vacations if they're not already. And I think that's one thing with your guys' company, that you're able to get prepared well in advance. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we bring all sorts of medical freedom to the forefront. And the main thing being is that we're allowing patients to be prepared. Your traditional physician will not allow it. Most of your doctors will not allow it. They'll just prescribe as needed or prescribe when they determine it's needed. And here at the pharmacy, we just simply send over a prescription request to a licensed physician who can review your medical profile, go over everything in depth with you, prescribe it appropriately, and then send that prescription to us and we can ship it out within a couple business days. So the greatest part about us is being prepared, having medications on hand when you need them. And we all know vacations are very important. And it's also important to have medications for vacations, whether it's a cruise, airplane, hiking trip, camping, Disney, Universal, whatever the case may be. There's all different types of medications for every need. So it's a great opportunity, especially now here in June, as we're getting close to July 4th and all the holidays that everybody's going to be celebrating when school ends.
That's awesome. And then if there was a graph, if I were to look at a graph with All Family Pharmacy, and I saw all the different prescriptions you guys have, which is what, more than 400, right? All sorts of stuff. What would be some of maybe the top 5 that are just like, these are the run-of-the-mill things that people are always getting? And what are like maybe unsung heroes that really help people that people aren't really talking about as much?
Yeah, so top 5 obviously would be ivermectin at the top. Then we have antibiotics, all different sorts of antibiotics based on, the bacteria infection or sensitivity or allergy. And then you have methylene blue, which is right up there, probably number 3, mental clarity, focus, and energy. RFK Jr.'s favorite medication. He loves it. Number 4 would probably be NAD+. NAD+, that's giving you that cellular energy, the cellular drive, mental clarity. Kind of makes you feel younger again, right? We're giving you those levels of NAD that you had in your 20s and 30s, where you're able to spark energy, you're able to work out, you're able to push your days longer than normal. And then number five, it's kind of a toss up. I would probably say one of the biohacking drugs again, like tirzepatide, one of the weight loss drugs. A lot of people love it. Some people, it's keeping a hormonal balance for them. Some people, they're losing weight and they're keeping their appetite down. In turn, it's helping them with arthritis and different pains that they have. And then the drugs that nobody talks about that are vital or important, probably at the top of the list, I would say Zofran. People don't understand Zofran as an anti-nausea, whether they're traveling on an airplane, on a cruise ship, any type of travel gets people nauseous, upset stomach. Some people like to enjoy their vacations more than others. So sometimes you work well in the morning when you have a couple of drinks the night before. Other ones that people don't talk about a lot are some of the, I would say, NSAIDs or meloxicam, something like an anti-inflammatory that keeps you going, especially as a parent and you have younger children who are constantly wanting to play, move around, or you're on vacation, they're constantly wanting to keep going, something like that.
So if someone was to do research, right, which we do a lot of these days, and I'm sure doctors and nurses and nurse practitioners, they probably don't like it as much when we can just have that freedom of just go on our phone, look up certain things that you're talking about, say, hey, I want that. So my question to you is there a list of a lot of your prescriptions there? And then do they just take that to their doctor, or they just take it to you? Like, how does it work if they already know what they want? Do they just go to you and order it?
Yeah, so they can simply just go right on our website and place that order. That order becomes a prescription request. That request is, we send that over to a physician who's licensed in their state. We work with about 3 or 4 different physicians located throughout the United States. They're all licensed in just about every state. So what we'll do is we'll send that request over to a doctor. Those doctors are like-minded. They listen like we do. They talk like we do. They act like we do. And they will prescribe as needed based on a patient's medical profile. Essentially, what that does is they'll review it. If they have any questions or concerns, they have all the access in the world to contact the patients directly, have conversations with them, go over sensitivities, allergies, any concerns they may have. If something is denied, they'll go over substitutions, or they'll have us go over substitutions if they can't directly get a hold of the patient. And then they'll send us the prescription and we'll ship it out. It's pretty easy. It's pretty simple. We do all the grunt work. We do everything on our end. All you got to do is place the order online. You could also call us and place it over the phone if you have questions, if you need any assistance placing it. We'll do everything for you. We'll give you some information. You just need to choose the medications that you believe works best for you.
So about 3 weeks ago, I saw on my back, I saw kind of a red mark there, and I was like, well, what bug bit me, right? Is it a spider? Like, what's going on here? Is it venomous? Like, I was concerned. So I went to a nearby urgent care. And are you saying that the same kind of antibiotic that I could get from them, I could just look up what is good for bug bites, go to All Family Pharmacy and request it from you guys?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have all different types of topicals that you can keep on hand, whether it's a topical antibiotic, a topical steroid, or if it's an oral steroid or an oral antibiotic. There are different instances for different cases. We can provide them all to you so that you're prepared. If you know you're going to be out in the woods and you have some sort of allergy, or there's poison ivy in the area, or if there is bugs around, anything along those lines, we have topical steroids that you can use and you can have on hand. Anybody that uses a topical cream or topical steroids, they already know what they're using and they know what works for them. And they're already going to have that in the back of their mind, like when they're placing the order, so that they're ready to go. There are tons and tons of different creams. If you ever have questions, if you ever want to know the difference between a few of them, we're one phone call away. We have pharmacists on staff that can walk you through that process. Ideally, we want to keep you informed on the medication that you're purchasing. That is the most important thing. And then also, as well as making sure that there's no contraindications with any medications you're taking, no allergies, no sensitivities. So that's why we put everything through our physicians to prescribe them appropriately, which is the most important part. But ideally, getting access to it is what we're going to give to you. There's no other company in the world. There's no other pharmacy in the world. CVS, Walmart, they're not going to do this for you. They're going to tell you to stand in line and have your doctor call in the prescription, and beat you around the bush for hours and hours at a time saying that the prescription has not been called in yet.
Yeah.
No.
It's the runaround. It's the long wait times. Right now, obviously, in 2026, we don't have time for that. We have time for getting better, and we have places like you guys at American Independent Pharmacy to do that with. If I were to maybe I wanted it every 2 or 3 months, say it was a prescription, right? You know how there's auto pay. Can I get on a program with you guys and just every 3 months I'm just getting a shipment and you guys are just debiting my debit card, or how does that work?
So we've looked into it, and we're still consistently looking into the membership protocol. One of the main things that we do on our end is we don't store credit card information, and that is a PCI compliance thing. We don't want anybody's information being compromised. As we know nowadays, there's so much technology out there. People are able to hack anything and everything. So we do get a little bit nerve-wracking on that end. However, all of our servers are HIPAA compliant. They're fully protected and encrypted. It's very, very difficult to even get into our servers, let alone having a conversation about credit card numbers. That is our first and foremost step of why we never did it originally. Our second step in, as we got everything fully secured and encrypted, we're now having those conversations about memberships, and we would love to dive into it. We don't get a lot of requests for it, and that's probably why we've never also pushed the thread on it or pushed the needle on it. Is usually we like to listen to our patients. We like to see what they're looking for, engage in their ideas, because then we know what they want. Not a lot of people come to us for memberships. They kind of like to come and go as they please. And we just try to make their life simple, easy, and convenient. And so by that route, we just listen to them and plug and play on our website what they need.
That's awesome. And that's just a great way to do it with allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And right now, use the RSBN 10 promo code, get 10% at checkout. And I understand you guys have some more in store coming up, I believe, for the July 4th holiday and some more sales coming up, right? Can we expect that at least?
Yeah, we do some sales over the summer. A lot of sales, actually. There's so many holidays over summer, so we try to do something unique for each holiday. We're always planning, we're always preparing ahead of time. But ideally, we don't know what we're going to do for those holidays. It usually comes a couple days prior to it or a week prior to it. And it's also based on availability. Some of these drugs they sell so quick, it's hard for us to even keep it in stock. And so that is another thing that we run into. So if we run a sale specific, we have to prepare for it months in advance on the medication side so that we know it's ready to go.
So it's just better to simply, if you need it now, just go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. The owner, Michael Kunzler, thanks again for joining us on Right Side.
Thank you.
Definitely. All right, good stuff there. An American Independent Pharmacy. You can get what you need through that pharmacy. They have the doctors to check out all the prescription requests and all that. So it's a good spot to shop. All right, let's do this. It is 2:49, Thursday, June 4th. Thank you so much for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We have a few more interviews coming up, but let's do this. I think we have, maybe it's clip 9, guys, for President Trump's Truth Social posts, and this one is always a good one. Specifically, he says, quote, as soon as we pull it up, there it is, the Save America Act. All voters must show photo ID. All voters must show proof of citizenship. No mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. No men and women's sports. No transgender mutilation surgery for our children. We all want that in the sense of, on the right side of history, to have that passed, the Save America Act. And as I mentioned the other day, if for some reason there's not enough momentum on Capitol Hill, maybe as many states or as many local governments could pass similar acts in the sense of voter ID, proof of citizenship. Stop the mail-in ballot junk in America, please. No more. Mail-in ballots are awful. Mail-in ballots, as President Trump says, are used to cheat. Only time we should be using mail-in ballots, to the president's point, medical, military, if there's certain instances like business travel, that kind of thing. Outside of that, we should not be abusing mail-in ballots, and we are, and it's awful to see it. And I hope that Spencer Pratt would be the mayor in LA. I hope that Steve Hilton or a Republican like Chad Bianco, somebody, would be the governor in California. But if we have a bunch of mail-in ballots that we have to count, wink, wink, like we did in 2020, vomit, I can't believe 2020 still with the whole COVID thing and the mail-in ballot abuse that was done to our country. I will just say this. All I know is people knew the Democrats, people that not only are in leadership, but the ones that really are brainwashed and for some reason liked Joe Biden. I remember hearing about it, like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of mail-in ballots this year. That's what this person said. And then I kind of knew at that point, yeah, that they're using COVID, they're going to use mail-in ballots, they're going to abuse the system, and then we're going to get screwed over in 2020. Well, we don't want to get screwed over any longer. We don't want Spencer Pratt to lose in LA or Steve Hilton to lose as governor of California or any other race across the union or in the midterms or the presidency in 2028, on and on and on, because of cheating, lying and cheating and stealing. It sounds like what the devil does himself according to the Bible. The devil comes in the Bible, it says here, to kill, steal, and destroy. And Jesus came so we can have life and have it more abundantly. So what side are we on, right? I know most of you are on the right side of history. I just hope this Save America Act can get some momentum going, as President Trump just posted that not too long ago, all about the Save America Act. Let's take a quick commercial break. I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
All right, if you're just joining us here on Right Side, we have a lot to get to, of course, as we get ready to see President Trump at the top of the hour, about 7 minutes. It may be a bit longer than that, but we're here for it. Meantime, as you guys know, June is here, and we know what that means: traveling, vacation. The kids are out of school, and you're running around like a wild person. At least some of you are out there. And of course, for those that are watching, that maybe the head of the household or the head of the family, you need to make sure everything is ready to go. You have food and drinks stocked. But did you get everyone's medicine? Did you get your son's antibiotics or your wife's allergy meds? Because the last thing you want in the middle of a vacation is to need medications that you just can't get. That's why we have All Family Pharmacy here with us. Be prepared with everyday prescriptions, emergency meds, and more, from hormone and thyroid support to weight loss, energy, antibiotics, antivirals, even anti-aging and hair support. It's all in one place. You order online and they handle everything for you without the runaround. They even take care of the doctor's prescription if you don't have one, and will ship everything directly to your door. So get what you need now so you don't have to worry later. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN10 promo code at checkout. You can also use that QR code. It'll take you right there too. But get that 10% off as you get prepared this summer. Let's go to Birch Gold Group, because for the first time since World War II, our national debt held by the public has exceeded GDP. And this is a wake-up call for our country because of our past crucial mistakes, specifically reckless government spending. So what's next? Higher inflation, higher prices, higher cost of living expenses, higher interest payments on the national debt. Every dollar Washington spends on interest is a dollar it has to tax, borrow, or print. Smart retirement planners prepare for potential setbacks, and they can do that by diversifying with a time-tested asset known for weathering the storm, physical gold from our trusted friends at Birch Gold Group. Text the word Trump to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on converting an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA and physical gold. And of course, you don't pull that ripcord on your parachute once you've already hit the ground. So don't wait for economic turbulence to diversify. Just text Trump to that number, 989898, and own some gold from Birch Gold. It's 2:56. It's almost, I was going to say it's Friday. It's not Friday yet. We're getting there. It's Thursday, June 4th. Thanks again for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. And speaking of dates, you ready? Let's go to a throwback Thursday, to one day before the 2016 presidential election. Again, for those that are watching, and you might not have heard what I just said, let's rewind. Boom. Let's go now to a throwback Thursday to one day before the 2016 presidential election. President Trump was in Manchester, New Hampshire on November 7th of 2016, and right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network had these words to say. Let's take a look.
You have one magnificent chance to beat this corrupt system and deliver justice for every forgotten man, for every forgotten woman, and for every forgotten child in this nation. Do not let this opportunity slip away. Folks, it's never going to happen again. Never going to happen. In 4 years from now, never going to happen again. And people are voting that they never saw before. These are great people, but they never saw anybody they wanted. They're voting in numbers like they've never seen in Texas, in Florida. No matter where you look, they're voting in numbers like they've never seen before. We are fighting for every citizen who believes that government should serve the people, not the donors and not the special interests. And we are fighting to bring us all together as Americans. Just imagine what our country could accomplish if we started working together as one people, under one God, saluting one American flag. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Such a great honor. Incredible people. You're incredible people. I'm asking you to dream big, because with your vote, we are just one day away from the change you've been waiting for your entire life. To all of the people in all of our cities and towns, I say these words to you tonight. I am with you, I will fight for you, and I will win for you. I will win for you.
If you're watching and you're wondering what the heck was that, well, that was from, I believe, November 7th, 2016, Manchester, New Hampshire. President Trump at the time, candidate Donald J. Trump, the day before he won that huge election in a landslide, of course, as it was just simply a throwback Thursday. It's fun to kind of have a way back Wednesday, throwback Thursday, and flashback Friday. So if you don't like it, sorry, I like it. Anyway, we're going to get to the president here as soon as we see that live feed there at the White House. We have a couple interviews to get to prior to that, though. Of course, we're going to talk to Chris Hamilton, the president of the West Virginia Coal Association. Of course, this announcement from the president, all about beautiful coal, that's coming up. But right now, Brendan Steinheiser, the CEO of the Alliance for Secure AI, joins us right now. Brendan, thanks so much for joining us on Right Side.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. We started out the broadcast talking about AI. I'm not sure if you caught any of the infrastructure AI segment that we had, because a lot of people are asking a lot of questions. You know, all of us, myself, everyday Americans are like, well, how soon is this thing going to happen called AI or robotics? We see little things about it, talking about AI database centers and that kind of thing. Can you share with us what you do there at Alliance for Secure AI?
Our job here at the Alliance for Secure AI is to make sure that AI goes well for humanity, that we actually see this age of abundance that we've been promised, that we see cures for diseases, and we solve hard problems like nuclear fusion, which would give us abundant energy, and that AI is a tool to serve humanity and to make everything better, not worse. But unfortunately, I think there's a lot of risk associated with AI. We see the big tech companies trying to basically, get us all addicted to AI slop and addicted to their apps. And, it's done a lot of harm along the way. There's also new models that have created some cybersecurity vulnerabilities. There's some threats to national security. And so our job is really to try and get that first outcome we want, to see AI go well and mitigate those risks that we see on a day-to-day basis. So that's the work that we're charged with, and we work hard really every day to engage with policymakers to work on solutions to this really tough problem.
No, that's awesome. It's awesome to see that. So can you share with us a little bit of your background as the CEO of Alliance for Secure AI? Because I'm a fan already of what you guys are doing out there. So can you share with us a little bit of your story?
Yeah, thank you. We're really proud of the work that we do. But, I got brought into this, a friend from graduate school, Mark Beal, kind of recruited me into this space. We both studied international affairs at the Institute of World Politics in DC. But my professional background was mostly in political campaigns. I was an early Tea Party organizer. I worked on strategic communications for candidates and causes that I supported over the years. But about 2 years ago, I got a call from my friend Mark, and he said, I want you to help me with this. And he started telling me about the rapid advancements in AI. And he gave me books to read and people to talk to. And so one thing led to another. And I really got hooked on trying to solve this problem in this policy space that I wasn't super familiar with. But after reading a lot of books and basically talking to a lot of people who were developing the technology, I got closer to it and started to understand the real risks involved if we don't get this right. And so that's sort of our mission, is to sort of mitigate the risks and try and reap the benefits of AI.
Would it be simply said, with the internet, it could be used for good, it could also be used for bad, just like pretty much a lot of things out there. So would you agree with that same premise for AI? There are some great things that can be done with AI, and then there's some really bad stuff too. Is that as simple as that?
That's part of the equation. It is kind of a dual use technology, just like nuclear power. Nuclear weapons, of course, can be on the downside of that. But it is a dual use technology that should be treated as such. I think that what makes AI different than any other technology in human history is that what we're developing are AI agents that will be able to pursue their own goals, their own purposes, and really get there in the way that they see fit. AI is going so fast right now that human beings will not be able to keep up with the capabilities in terms of speed and in terms of knowledge and kind of intellectual cognitive power as well. So that's what makes this different. It makes it kind of scary for a lot of us, is that we know human beings won't be able to keep up. So the only way to maintain control over those systems and have AI do what we want it to do is to solve these problems of alignment, which means basically aligning AI to human values and to American values, and to solve the problem of control. And if we don't, then I don't think we're going to get that first future that we talked about. We're going to get that more, unfortunately, kind of darker dystopian future if we don't solve these problems.
Well, it's great to have someone like you at the helm for Alliance for Secure AI. You brought up that you were part of the Tea Party movement. Much respect by myself and many across this nation, because it really is all about the freedom movement, the conservative movement, the liberty movement, the MAGA movement, America First, all the things that the right side of history is really about. So what was it that got you into the Tea Party movement back in the day?
Well, I was in Washington as a young staffer for an organization called Freedom Works. I worked for Dick Armey, who was the former House Majority Leader, congressman from Texas. And so I was young staffer there, and we were watching both parties spend more money than we could afford. We were watching a huge bailout of Wall Street that was $1 trillion plus. And frankly, we were mad at both parties. And so we said, we're going to do something about it. We watched Rick Santelli from CNBC do his famous rant heard around the world. Excuse me. And we took action and we said, hey, if he's not serious about organizing a Tea Party in Lake Michigan, then we'll do it. What does that look like? And so we started to band together and organize events all over the country as early as February 2009. And then our organization, joined with other organizations to host a massive kind of March on Washington, September 12th, 2009. And it was a beautiful movement with a lot of people from around the country that was, again, kind of mad at both parties and trying to sort of unite behind common themes of liberty, lower taxes, less government, and more freedom. And frankly, I think we could use a dose of that today.
Nothing else to say other than amen, sir. Thank you again for joining us. Where can people follow you on, maybe on social media? And then what is the website for Alliance for Secure AI?
Our social media handles are Secure AI Now, and our website is secureainow.org.
Awesome. Brendan Steinhauser, the CEO of the Alliance for Secure AI. Thanks for what you're doing out there for the country.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome stuff. Good to see that, right? I mean, because there's a lot going on when it comes to, hey, what's going to happen with artificial intelligence in the future? Anyway, let's go to a few of our sponsors. We'll have another guest join us as we are on standby now for the White House live feed when it comes to President Trump's announcement about big, beautiful coal. All right, let's go to All Family Pharmacy. June is here, of course, finally, and we know what that means: traveling, vacation, the kids are out of school, and some of you are running around like a wild person. And of course, as the head of your family, you need to make sure everything's ready to go. You have food and drinks stocked, but did you get everyone's medicine? Did you get your son's antibiotics, your wife's allergy meds? The last thing you want in the middle of a vacation is to need medications that you just can't get. That's why All Family Pharmacy is here. Be prepared with everyday prescriptions, emergency medications, and more. From hormone and thyroid support to weight loss, energy, antibiotics, antivirals, even anti-aging and hair support, it's all in one place. You order online, and they handle everything for you without the runaround. They even take care of the doctor's prescription if you don't have one, and will ship everything directly to your door. Get what you need now so you don't have to worry later. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use the code RSBN10 and get prepared for summer. Of course, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN is a great sponsor here at Right Side. All you have to do is use 10% off right there by using that RSBN10 promo code. Also, when it comes to money and gold specifically, for the first time since World War II, our national debt held by the public has exceeded GDP. So we know that it's a wake-up call for our country because of our crucial mistakes of the past. Specifically, reckless government spending has really caught up with us. So what's next? Higher inflation, higher prices, higher cost of living expenses, and higher interest payments on the national debt. Every dollar Washington spends on interest is a dollar it has to tax, borrow, or print. Smart retirement planners prepare for potential setbacks, and they can do that by diversifying with a time-tested asset known for weathering the storm: physical gold from our trusted friends at Birch Gold Group. So just text that word Trump to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on converting an existing IRA or a 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. Of course, you don't pull that ripcord on your parachute once you already hit the ground, so don't wait for the economic turbulence to diversify. Just text Trump to that number 989898. Again, text Trump to 989898. Own some gold from Birch Gold. All right, it is 3:09 Thursday, June 4th. Thanks so much for joining us here live on Right Side Broadcasting Network. In just a few minutes, we'll have our next live interview. In the meantime, let's go to the following national news headlines. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton will plead guilty to retaining classified information. That, according to the AP. Also on Capitol Hill, House Democrats, along with 4 Republicans, voted to limit the president's war powers. In response, in clip number 7, President Trump on Truth Social saying yesterday in a meaningless vote, the House voted 4 bad Republicans and all of the Democrats to limit my war powers right in the middle of my final negotiations to end the war with the Islamic Republic of Iran. Who would do such an unpatriotic thing? They know where the negotiations stand. The Democrats are fueled by Trump derangement syndrome. They would rather have our country fail than give me another of many victories. The 4 Republicans, well, that's a whole other story, the president says. They're grandstanders. They should be ashamed of themselves. MAGA, President DJT. All right, now, moving on, as we see the White House there, we see the outside of the White House, but we'll be seeing the inside of the White House here shortly, as soon as we see that live feed. Let's go to the Ohio Attorney General, Dave Yost. He actually joined a number of people in President Trump's administration to talk about Medicaid fraud recently. So let's go to clip 8.
I've been engaged in this fight since I was the elected auditor of state back in 2011. Through my 8 years as auditor of state and almost 8 years now as Attorney General, I have been doing Medicaid investigations, prosecutions. I have never had the level of interest and support from the federal government under any administration that you're witnessing here today. It's been a sometimes lonely fight against fraud. but it's no longer a lonely fight. And what's the difference? President Trump, Vice President Vance, and this team that you see arrayed here today, these senior federal officials who could be anywhere else, who have serious duties, are saying, this is the most important thing. I'm going to be here. We're putting everything on the field. I'm grateful for your commitment, and I look forward to the continued partnership as we work together for the people of this state.
We are here because President Trump decided to declare war on fraud, and the only way we could assemble a team like this, state officials, local federal officials, senior national federal officials, all to combat fraud, is because of President Trump's leadership. And he put Vice President Vance in charge of the anti-fraud task force, the point of the spear in the war on fraud, because Vice President Vance has the determination, energy, and leadership to carry this thing forward across the entire federal government, along with our state partners. Vice President has articulated a clear vision for how this war will go, a two-pronged attack on fraudsters. The Department of Justice and their partners in state governments and the Department of Homeland Security will put fraudsters in jail, and the agencies will make sure that we install safeguards so that the money never reaches the fraudsters' pockets in the first place. Today, you've seen both prongs of this attack on full display. The department getting arrest after arrest, indictment after indictment in the war on fraud. And the agencies led, for example, by Administrator Loeffler, SBA has done more work than almost any agency in the federal government to combat fraud, making sure that this money never gets back to fraudsters and the money that did go out the door is recovered. Today, I'm here to announce another major implementation in the agency part of this war on fraud. HHS Office of the Inspector General, led by March Bell in coordination with the task force, has decertified Hawaii's Medicaid Fraud Control Unit. Let me explain why this is important. Every year, the United States taxpayers send $2 trillion through Medicaid and Medicare out to the states. There are conditions on the money that goes out to the states, and one of them is very simple. If states want access to this money, they have to create a unit to fight fraud in those states, led by the attorney generals of those states. We are joined up here by Dave Yost. Ohio's Medicaid Fraud Control Unit is one of the gold standard control units for fighting fraud in the United States, and that is a credit to his leadership. The opposite has been taking place in Hawaii. For more than a decade, Hawaii's Medicaid Fraud Control Unit has received millions and millions of dollars to fight fraud and has consistently been one of the lowest performing fraud units in the country. They have been the subject of continued demands to improve their performance since 2014, dating back to the Obama administration. And from 2021 to 2025, Hawaii's Medicaid funding went up 27%. Their Medicaid enrollment went up 40%. And they did not produce a single conviction or obtain a single indictment of a fraudster from 2021 to 2025. And so this morning, the Inspector General, in coordination with the task force, exercised his statutory obligation to end the grants being paid to Hawaii, to make sure that money that goes out the door to the states is going to actually fight fraud. Less than a month ago, HHS sent a letter to every single AG in the United States and said, we are putting you on notice. For the first time, the Trump administration is going to take seriously the obligation that you have an effective Medicaid fraud control unit in your state. Everyone is on notice, and today Hawaii is being decertified for its abject failure to enforce state and federal law to prohibit fraud in Hawaii. And the reason this is important is because one of the requirements for getting Medicaid money for your state is to have an effective Medicaid fraud control unit. And if you don't have one, it can jeopardize the state's access to Medicaid money generally. So I want everyone in every state to look to the example of Dave Yost and Ohio. This is what you're striving for. Arrests, convictions, the protections of the taxpayers in your state and of the Medicaid programs in your state, and avoid becoming like Hawaii that has zero convictions and zero indictments to show for millions and millions of taxpayer dollars to fight fraud.
All right, so that was from earlier today. Of course, looking live at the White House, as we'll be going there any minute from now. Let's go to a few of our sponsors in the meantime, including Kalshi.com/RSBN. You can download the app if you'd like. You can use that QR code as well. A lot of people talking about Los Angeles, California, of course, both the city and the state, actually, because that huge mayoral race there with Spencer Pratt and Karen Bass. We'll see how that goes. Of course, Steve Hilton in the lead for the gubernatorial race there as governor in Sacramento. That would be wonderful to see that for California, on top of a number of other wins across this nation that we would like to see, including passing the Save America Act. But I don't know. We'll see what happens there. Great sponsor here, Kalshi.com/RSBN. So if you like to bet, trade, or just check out some polls, you can do that right there on that company right there, Kalshi.com/RSBN. Also, Cove Pure is one of the other sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. And you may have seen this out there. Apparently, researchers have been documenting male fish developing female characteristics in rivers all across our country. This is a true story. It comes from birth control pills that wastewater treatment plants can't fully filter out, and it's in the same water that runs into your home. So if you're a man out there watching, or if you have sons, grandsons, or loved ones in your life, this isn't something you can ignore, because that's why it's so important to use Cove Pure to purify your water. So here's how this actually works. When people take medication, their bodies, of course, don't absorb all of it. The rest gets flushed, goes through a wastewater treatment plant. And then those plants were never built to catch pharmaceutical compounds. So estrone from birth control pills, antibiotics, antidepressants, they just come right back out of your tap. So your standard pitcher filter from the store isn't going to cut it here, because these compounds are too small and too persistent. You need something that really can filter things at a molecular level, and that's exactly what Cove Pure is. Their Clearwave reverse osmosis technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. So estrone or fluoride, PFAs, lead, arsenic, basically anything that isn't water gets filtered out. Unlike traditional reverse osmosis systems, Cove Pure couldn't be easier to set up. You just put it on your counter, fill it up with water, and plug it in. And the best part is it lets you select whatever temperature you want. So hot water for tea or coffee, cold water for the gym, or maybe warm water for baby bottles. One tap and you get it instantly. So those fish didn't have a choice about what was in their water, and you do though. So go to covepure.com/RSBN, and right now you can get $250 off right now. That's covepure.com/RSBN, a great investment, a great product right there on your screen. All right, as soon as we see the president, we'll take you there live in Washington, D.C. It's all about big, beautiful coal today. Chris Hamilton is the president of the West Virginia Coal Association. Sir, thank you so much for joining us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Definitely. We talked with Senator Chris Rose, of course, the West Virginia state senator, a coal miner in his history, a generational coal miner there. I'm sure you are too. Talk to us about the importance of coal in West Virginia and throughout the United States.
Yeah, I'm glad you added that last piece on there, because it is important throughout the country. We mine a lot of it here. It's been part of our background and heritage. It represents a large percentage of our annual output here within the state. It's a huge segment of our industrial base. And we have communities throughout West Virginia where coal constitutes upwards of 50% of all payroll dollars and available jobs. We've been mining here since we've been a state. We ship our product not only throughout the United States, but throughout the world. It's a major component of our nation's export product, and represents about half of our state's export product.
Speaking of your state, the influx I've seen, I think it was plus 11% of the amount of people that have moved to the Mountaineer State there in West Virginia. Of course, a state that is fully red. I think every county voted for President Trump in all three elections in the past three. Outside of that, what's it like to have a president that's talking about energy independence, and whether it's oil for drill baby drill, but also making an announcement today about big, beautiful coal?
I tell you, we've never seen anything like this. I mean, President Trump here during the second term's only been in office 16 months, and it's just unreal. Never before experienced what he has done to help our industry from a regulatory standpoint. Of course, he was he was placed behind the eight ball, so to speak, after 4 years of the previous administration, where they did everything humanly possible, to wean the country and ratchet down the coal consumption and fossil energy consumption generally. So we just can't thank President Trump and his energy team and the National Energy Dominance Council and the guys he has there working with him for everything they've done from a regulatory standpoint to like today's announcement where they're expending money that was heretofore set for to boost renewable energy or intermittent energy, alternative energy. And, he's decided to return to some basic things, fundamental things around the board that just seems to work on a 24/7 basis. And coal-fired electricity is one of those things that provides us with the desired base load generation.
Yeah, and we're seeing that the president's going to use $700 million in federal support to the coal industry. Just your final word again for those that are just joining of the importance of the coal industry in the United States.
It is. It provides a 24/7 continuous baseload generation, and our coal plants today are amongst the cleanest plants, energy sources you'll find anywhere in the world. And we're just so proud to represent the best of class working miners and mine operators here within the great state of West Virginia.
Awesome. Awesome to see that. Chris Hamilton, the president of the West Virginia Coal Association. Thank you, sir, for joining us here on Right Side.
Thank you.
Definitely great to speak with people that are in these energy industries. And we've seen the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, out there traveling the country to various spots. And, we see energy independence as one of the major promises from the Trump campaign back in the 2024 campaign. Let's go look at President Trump now.
You all set? Well, maybe start where we left off yesterday. And we showed you this picture, and now it's opened. So this is now open. And you see the size of that compared to some of the biggest buildings in the country, actually the biggest. Hey, Peter.
Hey, President Trump.
And we have it finished. The water is pouring in as we speak. And maybe we'll show that what it looks like, because I'm sure the fake news will be thrilled. Take a look. This is from just a little while ago. Nice, clean water. So we're here to talk about clean, beautiful coal. That's clean, beautiful water. That's the longest pool anywhere in the world. And here you can tell they're not progressive, because this is not a progressive, because progressives never wear or show an American flag. These are proud people from Oklahoma. They came from Oklahoma, a company from Oklahoma, to do it. But you notice the American flag, he's proudly showing off his work. He's not a liberal and or a progressive. Used to be liberal, but they changed their name somewhere along the way because liberal wasn't working, but progressive doesn't work too. Although progressive is a beautiful term. They are not progressive. They're degressive. You got that? What do you think?
That's good.
Daniel's great. He's a great reporter. And again, we have a picture of a gentleman in a cart. Proudly, this is the head of construction for the job. So you can see it's just finished. This is just minutes before. And there's a gentleman named Secretary Burgum from Interior, Doug, who's been doing an incredible job. So Doug, we have 22 waterfalls. Most of them haven't worked for over 50 years. As of this morning, they all work beautifully, and they're clean. The graffiti's gone. The broken marble is fixed. Well, there's a way of fixing it. You use a thing called silicone and you fix them, and they look beautiful. All of the hate and everything is removed from them. Some of them done through stupidity, actually, but hate. But here's another picture. Now you can tell this is a proud American because he's got a flag. Protesters never have, the bad protesters never have flags up. They somehow don't like the flag too much, but we do. So that's great. We put in today, as you know, about Save America, the Save America Act. I don't know, someday the Senate and the House will get it done, although I must tell you the House has approved it about 3 times already. Save America Act right here. We have, everybody can see that. And then we'll talk about clean, beautiful coal. You're not allowed to say coal within the Trump administration unless it's preceded by the words clean, beautiful. Complicates our life, but it's good, right, Chris? Wherever you may be, it is clean and beautiful. I'll tell you, it's effective. So the Save America Act is all voters must show photo ID. So you go to vote and you show photo ID. Not complicated, right? You know, who could oppose it? They say it's an 80-20. It's not. It's about 99-1, and we'll never find the one person. Andy, congratulations, Andy, on a big victory.
Thank you for your help.
That's a great. I appreciate it, but you're very good at what you do, and I've been backing you right from the beginning for a long time, right?
Backing you too, sir.
For years, that's right. You have. Thank you. Congratulations. You won a big election. So you have all voters must show photo ID, identification. All voters must show a little thing called proof of citizenship. Would you say that's 99-1, Mr. Pennsylvania?
I would say that's maybe 100 to 0.
I would think so. They say
it should be.
No, but they say it's 80-20. It's not 80-20. It's 99. And we've never found the one person. There's another one. Then you have no mail-in ballots, but we want to be liberal, as they say. Or we'll say we want to be progressive. So it's no mail-in ballots. You see that's what's happening in California. They're rigging the election. Now, maybe we caught them, and maybe they won't be able to get away with it. They tried with me. They did it successfully the second time. The third time, we made it too big to rig. Too many votes. They couldn't do it. They can only go. They sort of gave up at about 9:07 when they got slaughtered with the votes that came in. But no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. So we're being very progressive, and we just don't want cheating in our elections. And you see it happening in California. Those numbers are coming down rapidly. They found a lot of mail-in ballots last night, shockingly. So we don't want that. Then we added best of. This is best of Trump. No men in women's sports. No transgender mutilization surgery for our children. I would say that's pretty close to 99-1 also. No men in women's sports. I would say that's pretty good. We had the quarterback, Jackson is the quarterback for the Giants. He's a big, strong guy. And I said, how do you think you do in women's sports, Jackson? He said, pretty good, sir. He didn't know I was joking. He was not worried, so let me put it that way. He would have been the greatest athlete in the history of women's sports. You got to see the size of this guy. Like a male model, and he's going to be a great quarterback. So we talk about that. And so we just would like the Senate, Democrats, Republicans to pass it. Interestingly, Democrat people, not crooked politicians, because most of them are crooked, or they're sick, or they're Trump deranged. There is Trump derangement syndrome. But the people, it's 86, 87%. Democrats. I mean, Democrats are fun. I have a lot of Democrat friends, but I don't know, for some reason, when they go into politics, they get radical left crazy, and they're trying to destroy our country, but we're not going to let that happen. So today we're taking historic action to bring down the price of energy and the cost of living for all Americans with the power of clean, beautiful coal. If you look at China, if you look at so many of the successful countries, they're using coal. If you look at some of the real great failures countries, they're using wind. Just keeps blowing, and puts you right out of business. Very expensive, most expensive energy there is. So wind is not working very well, but they keep it going, and because people get subsidies by countries that are stupid. Doug, I would say we haven't been long on wind. Do you agree with that? He understands numbers very well. You know, Doug was very, very successful. Believe it or not, I used to think it was in energy, but he was successful in technology, and he sold his company to, I think, Microsoft, right? And for a lot of money, and he ran for politics. He ran for office, went to North Dakota, won immediately, won governor, was very successful for 8 years. And I watched him during one of the performances of some very talented people. And I said, we're going to get him to work for us. And then I said I was going to put him in charge of energy. And he said, sir, there's a better man than me for that one. Not in all ways you feel that, but in one way, in energy, you know. And that was Chris, right? Yeah. Where's Chris?
Right here. Right behind you.
Well, he's a hard one to find. And Chris has done a fantastic job, and he's one of the reasons we're here today. We have had, we're right now double Saudi Arabia and Russia. If you double them up, that's what we produce, more than anybody else times 2. So think of that. As a result of the $700 million investment that I'm announcing today, we will protect 14 coal plants and 42 coal mines. It's a tremendous number. And build 2 new coal plants and 1 massive new export terminal, because we're exporting coal. Coal's a great business, really a big business, and it's real power. It's in terms of power, there's really nothing like it. You have so many different alternatives. They talk about some, but there's no real alternative. China, by the way, last year built 52 coal plants. They built about two windmills. You know, the only time they build a windmill is when they're trying to sell them to stupid people from the United States, the suckers. And by the way, and all over Europe, they sell the windmills, but they don't use them. I wonder why. They use coal plants and other things. These actions will support over 14,000 jobs and save the American people $50 billion in electricity costs. We're pleased to be joined by Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, and he has been great. I don't want to give him a big swollen ego, because then all of a sudden he'll leave me and I'll be stuck with Interior. I don't want to be stuck. But he's really done a great job. Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, who's fantastic. And maybe our MVP, what do you think, Doug? It's close.
Yes, right here.
What do you think? MVP, Lee Zeldin. And the job he's done is great. We had the auto industry in yesterday. They don't want people to fix their car. I said, that's strange. I'd never heard of that. They have a thing to, nobody's allowed to fix their car. They gave a man 7 years in jail, actually, because he fixed his own car. So I thought we'd do something about that. But we'll get it all straightened away. Can you believe it? They want a bill that prohibits people from fixing. So if you're mechanically inclined, you know, I went to school with some guys that were, in some cases, horrible students. But they could fix an engine blindfolded. They could take a car apart blindfolded. But they weren't too good at arithmetic and other things. But they were great. And so there's a move on to stop people from fixing their car. I didn't understand it, but we had a great meeting yesterday with the head of General Motors and Roger Penske, head of Ford. We had a great meeting, I think. Thanks as well to a friend of mine also for a long time, West Virginia Governor Patrick Morris. I won by 45 points, Patrick.
It's not enough.
I love those people. And Wyoming, I think maybe even slightly more than West Virginia.
Yeah, just a little more.
We did pretty. I like this group of people. But Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon, respected guy, great governor, both of them really amazing. And Representatives Dan Muser, Riley Moore, Derek Van Orden, Juan Ciscomani, and Andy Barr. So you have a lot of representatives here that are fantastic. Today we're officially invoking the Defense Production Act to save 13 coal plants in West Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, Indiana, Tennessee, Arizona, Arkansas, Oklahoma, North Dakota, and Wisconsin. These were incredible plants, so productive, really producing a lot of the electricity, right? The electricity, it's really the best at that. You know, when they find something better, Chris, I think we'll be all set for it, right? But they're a long ways from finding something better.
Coal's critical.
And so when you look at that, those states, West Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, Indiana, Tennessee, Arizona, Arkansas, Oklahoma, North Dakota, Wisconsin, what do they all have in common? Trump won them.
Wisconsin,
I won every one of them. By a lot, right?
Yeah.
I'm not even mentioning Pennsylvania, which we won also, right?
Yes.
But we won them all. We won probably we won all 50. We had an honest count, if you want to know that. Our action will allow these facilities to invest in upgrades that will extend their operational lives for decades into the future, reinforce the reliability of our electric grid, which is really the biggest beneficiary, and most importantly, keep electricity prices very low for the American people. This brings the total number of coal plants that we've saved during my administration, just like when we said we saved 25 water fountains. Think of this. These are fountains, beautiful fountains that were so horrible to look at with the graffiti. Over 40 years, many of them closed over 40 to 50 years. The big one, the reflective lake, some people call it a pond, some people it's like a lake. But the reflective lake was built in 1922. It never really worked from the beginning, from 1922. That's a long ways. So it's over 100 years old. And it never really worked because they had the wrong base. It was always leaking. They didn't have what we have today. So it's pretty amazing what's happened. And, you know, I hate to say it won't leak, but it won't leak because we use the material that doesn't allow leaks. You know, it's like a swimming pool doesn't leak. You use the right. This is called swimming pool on steroids. So it's great stuff. And today's actions, we're also supporting coal mines and coal miners in Wyoming and Pennsylvania, Kentucky, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, North Dakota, and New Mexico. And they're all going back to work. You know, it's interesting with the mines, that famous scene of Hillary when we went to West Virginia.
Yeah.
And she had just left another state and she was trying to convince everybody that they should go into technology, no longer be miners. And these guys in West Virginia, they didn't want to hear about it. They wanted to be, remember that scene around the table? They talked to this beautiful, big, strong miner, and they wanted him to make computer chips. She said, we'll teach him how to make computer chips. His hands were so large, he couldn't hold a computer chip. He's looking at it. He had fingers that were like 3 inches around. They're talking about making a computer chip. And he didn't like it, and he ended up being one of our best ads ever. She wasn't, and she did rather poorly. She lost, I think she lost by 77 points or something like that. Pretty tough to go you knock coal, and then you go 2 weeks later to West Virginia to try and win the state. It didn't work out well for her. But the miners love us. What do you think we got with the coal miners? Would you say we got 90%, 100%? What do you think we were on this?
Pretty high.
Yeah, pretty
Probably higher than any group in the country.
Pretty high. Yeah, it can't be bad. Well, we did well with all the groups. I'll tell you, the group that now likes us are the auto workers, because we're building more auto plants now than at any time in the history of our country. So it's great to watch and see what's going on with the U.S. We're the most respected country anywhere in the world, and we were a dead country a year and a half. We were a dead country. We were laughed at. We were a mocked, laughed at country. Starting this summer, the West Gateway project will break ground, and by summer 2028, over 12 million tons of clean, beautiful coal per year will be shipped to countries all around the world. And this project's been delayed over 10 years, and Biden ended it, and then Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? Barack Hussein Obama, another one. He's another beauty. But that delay is now over, and it's going to be very productive. It's going to fuel our electric plants in particular. It's going to be amazing. Finally, we're taking nearly $200 million in that to set aside for the Green New Scam, and it was set aside for the Green New Scam, but the Green New Scam is history. And repurposing that money so that we restart a coal plant in Maryland and help build 2 brand new coal plants in Alaska and West Virginia. And these are all built with new technology. It's very clean. It's amazing how that's come along. It's all very clean. And the first new coal plants to open in our country since 2013 couldn't open. You couldn't even think. They were only closing them. They were closing them, and you had brownouts all over the place. But you don't have that anymore. Do you notice? Under 4 years of Sleepy Joe Biden and the radical left Democrats in Congress, Not a single permit was approved for a new coal mining project, but in over 1 year of our administration, we've already approved 76 permits for clean, beautiful coal. Last year, we prevented 17 gigawatts of coal-powered electricity from going offline, and that's enough power for about 13 million homes. Think of that, 13 million homes at a very low price. It's the lowest price. So now I'd like to ask Secretary Burgum to say a few words, followed by Secretary Wright, Administrator Lee Zeldin, and then Governor Mark Gordon, and whoever else wants to say a few words, including my new friend, my new governor friend. So, Doug, go ahead.
Well, thank you, President Trump. With these announcements today and everything that your administration has accomplished so far since you've taken office, this administration has done more to save, protect, and expand coal in our country than any administration perhaps ever.
Clean, beautiful coal.
Clean, beautiful coal, absolutely. And none.
I'm only kidding.
That's okay. When you took office, the first thing you did was declare an energy emergency. Some people questioned that, but the prior administration under Biden had gone so far down the path of pursuing the highly subsidized, intermittent, weather-dependent sources of electricity that our grid was at risk. You understood that, and you understood that how key coal is. It's the backbone of having affordable, reliable, and secure American energy to power our country, power our electric grid, power our competitiveness in AI, and power all the manufacturing that's coming back. As you mentioned, with those record coal leases, this is where we take federal public land, lease it to the private sector. They write a check, that comes into the Treasury. They create jobs, help support local communities. So there was 0 coal leases held in 4 years under the Biden administration. You heard the president talk about 76 here. We've slashed red tape. Those took years to get. Some of these projects for coal mining we've approved in less than 1 month under the emergency procedures. And we also have opened up for leasing another 13.1 million acres that people can bid on in our country on public land. And this is land that was set aside. This is not national parks, it's not wilderness area, it's not our wildlife refuges. This is public land that was set aside for the benefit and use of the American people, including energy development, making sure that we've got affordable, reliable energy. So using those public lands is what we're doing. And then the last thing within Interior, I would say we did strategically designate through the U.S. Geologic Survey, which is part of Interior, designate metallurgical coal as a critical mineral. So it's on the list, and that opens up a number of opportunities. But without metallurgical coal, we don't have coke, we don't have the steel industry. The Biden administration was indiscriminate trying to shut down our metallurgical coal as well as our thermal coal. So, and then the last thing you mentioned, the coal export facility, again, working through all the permitting to drive towards that so that we can be selling clean, reliable energy to our allies in the Pacific who want to do more trade with us. And lastly, again, thank you for creating the National Energy Dominance Council. Our Executive Director, Jared Hagan, is here today, but Chris, Lee, and I all have details on that team, and that operates right out of the White House, and that's why President Trump is able to get so much done so quickly. This is the first time ever we had a president with a White House council specifically focused on energy, and what an impact it's having.
Well, and thank you, Doug. Perhaps slightly less importantly, but I think very important, the National Garden of American Heroes is going to be unbelievable. And I'd like to know how are you doing on that, and how are you doing on the Great Triumphal Arch? So every city, just about every major city, has a triumphal arch. This is an arc that's a real bow, a beautiful bow to your military and military victories. Nobody's had more military victories, including recently, than we have. And they never got the arc built. It's been, the Civil War stopped it. That circle has been sitting there for a long time, for many, many years. And, I guess you could go back to, in 1902 they tried it, but in 1860 and 1880 they just never got it. The Civil War stopped it the first time. That was a good reason. I think that's probably not a bad, that was a good excuse. But after that, it just never happened, and we're going to get it done. And so we're doing it with the Department of Interior, and we're also doing the National Garden of American Heroes, which is phenomenal. And we're doing something that just came up. We'll have a little breaking news here because nobody's heard of it. But at the Lincoln memorial, the front was supposed to be the back was supposed to be the front. It never got built because they built 2 roadways behind it after it was built, and it shut off the gateway to the water. That was really going to be the main entry, and we're going to be doing that. It's called the Promenade. It'll be the Promenade. They want to call it the Trump Promenade, but I don't know if I want to do that. But it's going to be beautiful. It's a beautiful project, and it's going to take the Lincoln Memorial right down to the Potomac, which it was always scheduled to do. But when they built the roads, that was the end of that. But we have a way of beautifully going over those 2 roads, highways, very, very strong, very important roads, actually, as you know, from the bridge. But it's going to be great. So can I ask Doug for just a couple of seconds to talk about those 3 great projects that we're just starting?
Well, I'd say that it's important for everyone to know that, as you described, these are plans and ideas that have existed almost since the end of the Civil War. But the Macmillan Plan, which is the one that designed the National Mall as we see it today, that was in the early part of the 1900s, envisioned this connection that you would have the memorial bridge between the Lincoln Memorial and Arlington Cemetery. At the halfway point, there's a very large circle. It was designed to hold a monument. The arc that would go there is a fantastic complement and completion of this plan that's over 120 years ago, President Trump's vision of how to build that. And of course, President Trump has talked to President Macron from France. More people visit the Arc de Triomphe than even visit the Eiffel Tower. I mean, this would be a highlight for Americans to come. The views back at the city from the top of the arch would be amazing. The views from this side, from West Potomac, where the National Garden of Heroes was, looking across at the arch would be amazing. And of course, the promenade on the backside of the Lincoln is, as President Trump described, right now there's no pedestrian access. You're on the mall, people come from around the world. They don't know that 100 yards away is the beautiful Potomac River, which was part of the original plan. And now they'd be able to walk around the Lincoln Memorial, walk on a pedestrian bridge over the first highway, walk over the next one, and right down to the water. It would complete the vision. These projects would complete the original vision, the Macmillan Plan, and how fortunate are we to have the builder-in-chief, someone who both has the vision and the understanding of how to get projects done that would, again, make our city safe and beautiful, just like the executive order President Trump put out last year has accomplished. And wow, we are ready for the celebration of our 250th anniversary. The city's never been safer, it's never been more beautiful, but President Trump's not stopping there. Vision that he has for these projects would extend for generations forward. So thank you, President Trump.
Thank you very much. Great job. And Secretary Chris Wright, please.
Yeah. No coal, no modern world. Stated another way, without clean, beautiful coal, a modern world is impossible. And we saw 17 years ago, President Obama's election, an all-out attack on the American coal industry, the industry that built our nation. We wouldn't have the buildings, the factories, the industry, the electricity grid we have today without the critical contribution of coal. It's been the largest source of global electricity for 125 years in a row, and will be for decades to come. In the United States, it remains a critical source of our electricity, also a critical source for our industry. Can't produce steel and cement and other materials without coal. And beyond the impacts of coal in our electricity sector, just think of the direct impact on human lives. If President Trump had not been elected and inaugurated in January of 2025, and through his authority at the DOE, we were able to force keeping open 6 coal plants. As of today, there'll be a 7th one, and more than twice as many that voluntarily said, hey, we're not going to have to close. We need to stay open. 17 coal plants were not closed in 2025 because of President Trump sitting at this desk and in this position right here. That saved 17 gigawatts of electric generating capacity, and the winter storm Fern that hit our country in the last week of January this year, conservatively, hundreds of Americans would have lost their lives if those 17 coal plants had closed. We pushed the East Coast electricity grid in the United States absolutely to the limit. A storm Uri hit 5 years ago in Texas, smaller in geographic extent, not the same magnitude. Over 300 people died. But because we had those coal plants operating and running, and not only did they run, wind power disappeared when the storm hit. Solar's irrelevant in the winter, so the things we talk about didn't even matter to our electricity grid except for cost burdens. Coal stepped up and produced 25% more electricity during this storm than its normal reliable chugging out of electricity. Without those plants, without that increase in electricity production, we lost a lot of Americans, untold economic damage. President Trump is the president with the courage and the boldness to defend an industry that has been maligned for far too long and to recognize its importance. Americans are upset about high electricity prices. Blame closing existing reliable, secure plants and replacing them with subsidized, unreliable plants, a guaranteed way to drive electricity prices up. But this administration is committed to reversing all of that. That money we've talked about from the Defense Production Act, thankfully, because of the One Big Beautiful Bill and these fantastic congressmen sitting around me and governors, without that legislation, we wouldn't have the money and the Defense Production Act authority to keep open so many plants. It is hard to overstate the magnitude of this. If you look at our efforts across the whole government so far, 45 coal plants are open today that would not be open. Where would we be to reindustrialize America? Where would electricity prices be if we had let all of those plants close? But we're not doing it. All of those plants, that's $700 million of government funding, but it's matched with $1.7 billion of private investment from the owners and operators of those plants. All the people in those states that say, phew, we don't have to kick our industry out and raise electricity prices again. Common sense is returning to Washington, D.C. And for that, I'm incredibly thankful to be here in the United States government, to work for President Trump, who will stand up for what's right, bring common sense back, and reinvigorate an industry without which we would not have the America we have today. And we're going to reindustrialize America, win in the next generation of technologies, and we're going to do it in critical part because of a growing and thriving coal industry. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you, Secretary Burgum. Thank you, Lee Zeldin.
Good. And Lee Zeldin, how about saying a few words?
For so many Americans, clean, beautiful coal is their source of heat, of energy, of warmth, of a job, an economy, a community, a family. And for too long, you saw Democrats who were telling these coal miners that they should just learn to code. And what we saw during the Biden administration at the EPA, for example, was regulation after regulation after regulation trying to strangulate out of existence coal, to destroy it. Enter President Trump. Declares a national energy emergency, creates a National Energy Dominance Council, and he told us at the EPA at Trump's speed to be getting rid of these regulations as quickly as possible on behalf of those Americans who want to just stay warm, who want to live the American dream, who want to have affordable access to energy. The Democrats were running for power to sit at this desk and to leverage that power to destroy these communities. Enter President Trump. He has saved clean, beautiful coal, and it's been an honor to be part of it.
Thank you. Great job, too. Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon. Thank you.
Mr. President, it's an honor to be here. Thank you to the secretaries who have breathed life into an economy in Wyoming that has been there for a long time. Wyoming produces the cleanest, most beautiful coal, low sulfur coal.
You don't mind if I push a little?
And it's fun because we have a chance to educate our kids. Now, let me just talk a little bit about the other side of this. When a kid grows up in Wyoming, their education's paid for in large part by coal severance taxes, by the royalties that come from mining that coal that was shut down by the Democrats. When they have a chance to get a job, they can go look to the coal mine. And it's not just digging coal the way we used to. It's high-tech jobs. You know, at this point, we don't mine coal the way we used to at all. It is very, very technologically proficient. And what's more important, it's environmentally sound. I would invite you to come and look at the reclamation that's happened in the Powder River Basin, and we can demonstrate that it's environmentally sound, that actually wildlife populations thrive and do better. Today, Mr. President, I really want to talk to you a little bit about our recent trip to Japan and to Taiwan. Both countries that were going to forswear coal. And now they realize that they need that reliable, dispatchable, secure source of energy. But they can't get it as clean as they can from the Powder River Basin. So to be able to open that Oakland port is absolutely essential for the lifeblood of our state and for our coal mines. It is something that we tried to do in your first administration, and we almost got there. We actually were prepared to go through that, I guess, belt that we have on the West Coast with California, Oregon, and Washington, and finally enforce the Commerce Clause to allow states like New Mexico, Wyoming, Utah to have access to that Asian market. And let me just tell you one last thing about that. It's not just about clean, beautiful coal. We have companies like Peabody that are now saying, we believe we can get rare earth minerals and critical minerals from what we're doing. So we are advancing technology, advancing the opportunities and the security of the state, all because of your vision, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Would you like to say something on behalf of West Virginia?
I would like to say, Mr. President, all West Virginians are so deeply grateful to you for your focus on protecting their energy jobs. The coal miners know the incredible importance of why we're here today, and to talk about the potential for new coal-fired power plants, that excites them. And I think West Virginians are really inspired because we're America's energy state. When you think about what's happening on the global scene, where that fight, that international fight with China for information technology supremacy, we believe that your policies are going to allow America to compete and win. And West Virginia is going to supply the coal, the gas, the nuclear to help make that happen. So I'm very excited by everything you're doing, even some of the relatively small things when you come in and you sign agreements with your administration, putting hundreds of people back to work. It's all making a big difference for West Virginia. So thank you, Mr. President.
As an example, the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. It bothered me for many years. We have 92% of the frontage, and we made that little change. And Mexico was thrilled. They were thrilled about it. But that was a good one, right? You were telling me before that was a good one. It's about the United States now for a little while, if it's okay. Would you have any questions?
Yes.
Yes, President Trump, this was just crossing as we were heading in here. President Zelensky wrote a letter to President Putin. He wants the two of them to meet to hash out the end of the war in Ukraine because he thinks you are too busy with the war in Iran. Is he right?
Well, I don't know. I'm glad that they're maybe talking about me. I think we had a lot to do with it. I know exactly what you're doing. But I think it would be great if they met. They should get it done.
Mr. President, there's been a lot of talk lately about the Treasury putting your face on a $250 bill. Have you seen a mock-up of the Trump $250 bill? And if that winds up being currency, would you ever be able to tip anyone anything but that?
Well, I think I'd probably leave it for everybody. I have actually seen something just about 2 days ago. I know it's been pushed by a lot of our supporters, and I'm honored that they're doing it, but we'll see how that all works out. But I have heard about it, and there is a group of people that really like the job we're doing, so that's a great honor. Yeah, please.
You announced just a few days ago that you're naming Bill Pulte as the acting director of national intelligence. There's been a little bit of a pushback from some Senate Republicans. Why do you think, Mr. President, he's the best person for the job?
Well, he's very smart. He's a person who's got high integrity. He's done a phenomenal job at Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. You probably have $1 trillion in value there. When he took over, it was much less. And I guess I'm responsible for that, too, because everybody wanted me to sell it in my first term for 10% of what it's worth right now. If I would have sold it, we would have lost $900 billion. We would have lost, think of it, it's probably worth $1 trillion. And I was offered, people want me to sell it at $100 billion, a very small percentage of what it's worth now. So, and he built it up a lot, did a great job. And it's an acting position. It's not a permanent. He's not going to be permanent because, I don't think he'd want to be permanent. But he's a very smart guy, and he may find out some things about the rigged elections, et cetera, et cetera. I think he'd like to do it. I think he wants to do it very much. Got a lot of energy. But he'll be very good. Again, it's not a permanent position. Right. We're interviewing people right now, but it's somebody just to take it over for a little while.
Does he have the necessary, in your view, Mr. President, the necessary national security experience to take on that position?
Well, I do, and I think he does, actually, because he's smart. Because a lot of national security, I wasn't greatly experienced in national security, and I think I've done a really great job with it. A lot of people would say that. I've ended 8 wars, and soon to be a 9th. I hope that works out, too, Frankly, probably, and there's another one also. It could be 10. No president, I don't think a president's ended 1 war having to do with outside of this country. So, we've done a good job. I would say that Bill is a guy that will be able to figure it out very quickly. Again, it's short term, but he may be very effective for a short period of time.
Mr. President, so what will there be a proportional share increase of electricity production as a percentage of our nation's electricity output? And my follow-up is, I took that historic trip with Secretary Wright of the small modular nuclear reactor on the West Coast early this year. Are we making more progress? Because I know how critical gas and coal is for the secure grid.
Well, the answer is we are, but Chris, you want to answer that?
Yes, I mean, our electricity grid essentially runs on gas, coal, and nuclear. Those are the 3 key sources. They're the backbone of the American electricity grid. We're in favor of seeing all 3 of them grow. You will see all 3 of them grow during this administration. And in fact, later today, before the sun goes down, you'll see a big announcement in the nuclear space related to the trip you came on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, President Putin said today that he was willing to make compromises that you requested to end the war with Ukraine if Ukraine was willing to make similar compromises. Yeah. What were the compromises that you asked Putin?
Well, I'd rather not say, because Peter asked me. I think it was meant as a little wise guy question, but I'm not sure. But I'm very responsible when that happens. It's going to happen. They're going to both make compromises. I suggested those compromises. And, we've had a lot to do with it. We'd love to see they're 2 very good people. They're 2 very, incredible countries, beautiful countries. They've got to stop. Last month they had 25,000 people killed. Soldiers, mostly soldiers. Some people, but mostly soldiers. And it's been averaging probably almost 25,000 people every month of soldiers killed. And I've been very strong on the fact that they've got to get that over with. So, but they do. I want them each to make certain compromises. I think they're going to do that. Yeah, Daniel?
Mr. President, thank you. You, through your actions, have saved and supported more than 100 coal plants in your second term. When you hear something like that and you try to create an environment where they're not just surviving, they're thriving, what does that do to the reliability of our energy grid, but to the economies as well of states like Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Wyoming? How does it bolster those economies?
Well, we were destroying our grid because we were relying on wind and other things that don't have the power, they don't have the strength, they're very expensive. Wind is the most expensive form of energy. It sounds good, wind, beautiful wind, but it's very intermittent. But those windmills cost a fortune. They break, they kill the birds, they're bad for the environment. Nobody wants to be near them. The houses, I don't know how they got popular. They're not popular with the people. They're popular with investors because they get subsidy. But we pretty much cut that subsidy out, I think, Doug, right?
Absolutely. In the working families tax cut bill, it all expires, and since the subsidies have gone away, there's virtually no one, particularly offshore, no one is trying to build one of those projects in America. Turns out they weren't trying to generate electricity, they were just trying to generate tax credits. That's right.
You're supposed to be making money with energy. And here, wind, it needs subsidy. Energy shouldn't need subsidy. We have so many different forms of energy, but I've talked about it for years. Wind is the most expensive, it's the worst. It causes tremendous problems, and it does. It kills millions and millions of birds a year. Nobody mentions that. You'd think if that were anything else, everybody would be sued. If you kill a bald eagle, to put you in jail for like 4 years or something, and yet windmills knock them out of the air all the time. Nothing happens. It's disgraceful. So we're into energy that really works and works powerfully. Yes, go ahead.
And we're waiting outside to come into the Oval Office. Everyone's looking at the UFC structure,
Yeah.
the claw. Are you happy with how that's coming along, and
It's
what are your
incredible.
expectations?
We put it up in 5 days. It's incredible. And I told yesterday the story of the Eiffel Tower, and it was 1889. It was put up. It was going to be brought down right after the World's Fair ended, which was up for a short while. And they said, well, let's leave it a little bit longer. Then they said, let's leave it a little longer. It never came down. That was 1889, the World's Fair in Paris. So I jokingly said, let me tell you something about the Eiffel Tower. Now it'll come down after the fact. There were actually some people who said he wants to leave it up. Yes, please.
Mr. President, about the Columbus statue, Columbus Fountain at Union Station, it looks amazing.
Thank you.
And what does that mean for the relations between Italy and the United
Well,
States?
it means Italian people love Trump. Because, that was controversial. People want to rip it down. You see how beautiful it is. And we didn't only not rip it down, but Doug and his group and all of us together, we beautified it. It's I didn't know that marble was going to be so beautiful once we cleaned it up. You wouldn't believe it when you saw that thing was loaded for 50 years with film and graffiti and everything else. It's amazing. It's amazing how good. They did a really great job.
On the Strait of Hormuz, Mr. President, do you still want European allies' help? We're discussing energy today. And
well, we don't
what
need
kind
the
of help do you? What kind of help would you want? Do you have a
We're the
definite
most
ask?
powerful military in the world. We gave them a chance to help, but they chose not to. NATO. We went to the NATO countries. We went to others too, in all fairness to NATO. And I wouldn't say I gave them a hard sell. I said, hey, if you'd like to help, it'll be wonderful. And they all turned us down. And, it's going to be an expensive proposition for them because they shouldn't have done that. They should have helped. We don't need it. We have our own. We have much more than we need in terms of oil and energy generally. But European countries and other countries, they need it tremendous. Some of the European countries need it really big. And they should have said, we'd love to help. But
if you could choose, but Mr. President, if you could choose, what would you ask them to do, sir? If you want.
Well, I would have asked them. I mean, there's not much. Look, there's no Navy, there's no Air Force. We've wiped them out. We've wiped out their leadership and almost all of it. We've wiped out all their military leaders. They're down on the third. Now, maybe they're very good. I don't know. I can't tell you that. But certainly the first ones didn't do very good because they were literally, after 3 days, almost the entire military was wiped out. They had to get new generals. And then after that, they had to get more new generals. And we knocked out their anti-aircraft, their Air Force, just about everything you can knock out. So, and then you read in the fake news that they're doing really well in the war. I mean, it's unbelievable. We knocked out everything there is to knock out, and you'd pick up the fake news and they'd say how well they've done. They're doing brilliantly. They have no Air Force. They have we knew that, 159 ships. Andy, out of 159 ships, all 159 lie beautifully at the bottom of the ocean. We actually took pictures of them down there. And then you read the fake news, they say, well, their Navy is really great. You know what they have now? Little runabouts with a machine gun on the front. Their ships don't even really deal with them. They're like a gnat, they get off. That's all they have. It's crazy. This country needs a fair press. And one thing I think that's done is expose how corrupt our media is. And I really do, while we're here, I hope the media looks at this election that's taking place in California, where they think it'll take 7 or 8 days to count the votes. Can you believe this? I mean, they spend all that money on the machines, the big voting machines. They think it's going to be 7 or 8 days before we know who won the election. But the numbers are looking strange because without any vote counting, the numbers dropped very precipitously for 2 Republicans that are doing well, that had been doing well. And I hope you're all watching it because I'm watching it very closely.
President, are you worried that China is funding an anti-data center movement here in the
No,
U.S.?
I'm not worried about it. We had a great meeting with China. And, they do things to us and we do things to them. I say it all the time. They say, are you worried about China tapping your phones? I said, well, they're worried about the same thing. No, we're very highly sophisticated. We've become very highly sophisticated. We had 4 years. I rebuilt the military. We had a military that was not good, and we rebuilt it. And I didn't know I'd use it quite as much, but we used it. Ukraine has been given a tremendous amount of our without our military and our equipment. Ukraine wouldn't be alive to fight today. You know, I mean, just in terms of the question, we gave them hundreds of billions of dollars worth of equipment. And the best equipment. We make the best equipment anywhere in the world, but they wouldn't have lasted 1 or 2 days. They wouldn't have been able to do it. Remember the anti-tank missiles? Remember that, right? When the tanks got stuck in the mud, and then they went around and boom, 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 and those were given by yours truly. They said Obama gave sheets and Trump gave. The anti-tank as one of the most devastating weapons, but you check that out. But we have the greatest military. We have the greatest military equipment anybody's ever seen before. Look at Venezuela. We went in there. It was over after about 48 minutes. And you know they have a strong military, different kind of a military, but a lot of soldiers. And you look at Iran, well, we essentially wiped out their military. Now, there's some missiles left, but very few compared to what they had.
And speaking of our military and Iran, I wanted to ask you about this report that you would only restart the conflict with Iran if they killed U.S. troops. Is that your red line for ending the ceasefire?
If they killed?
U.S. troops.
What does that mean?
That you would restart the war with Iran if they killed U.S. troops.
Well, it would be a good reason. I'll be honest with you. Yeah, if they killed U.S. troops, I think I would do that very quickly. Yeah, that's a very interesting question.
You've responded to the vote in the House yesterday on the War Powers Resolution. Also, we've seen Hezbollah reject the U.S. brokered peace in Lebanon. You said that negotiations are in final stages. Iran saying they're stalled.
Yeah, what does reject mean? They didn't reject. Look, they're looking. I think Hezbollah, I will tell you, they called us and they said, how about stopping? And I think you're going to see things happen over there. That's been like a little bit of a different world, but it's interconnected with Iran. And it would be really nice if Lebanon could have some peace. Lebanon's been under attack for so many years and always like an underdog. And it would be really nice if it could end. And I spoke to Bibi Netanyahu about that. And I speak to them about it. And I actually spoke to Hezbollah about it. And I think progress is made. That's been going on for a long time. You know, when you look at that for years and years, 48 years, I say, well, let's get this settled. How long has it been going on? 48 years. I said, that's a long time. Not that easy, but go ahead.
As we get closer to the midterms, are you starting to factor in domestic reaction to this in your handling of this?
No, I just do what's right.
Indefinitely?
No, I mean, look, it was like Venezuela. It was very unpopular. Then we won. And my numbers went through the roof. I have very high poll numbers. They went through the roof. It was very unpopular when I went to Venezuela. They said, oh, we don't want... Well, first of all, that one's relatively close. It's sort of a semi-neighbor, right? And the relationship with Venezuela is incredible. We've taken out millions and millions of barrels of oil out of Venezuela. It's very oil-prone. I guess, Chris, one of the most, right?
Yes.
And we've taken out, you're sort of leading it, but you want to just tell them real fast about the relationship we have with Venezuela, Chris?
Yeah, things with Venezuela have gone very well. Venezuelan oil exports today are 3 times higher than they were right before we went in. So it has been a meaningful incremental supply of oil to the world. And one of the reasons we're solving a 47-year-old problem of Iran's race for nuclear weapons and oil prices in the U.S., we wish they were lower. But gasoline prices in the U.S. are, a little over $4. They're $10 in Europe. They're higher in Asia. They're very high in California. The bigger threat to energy prices in the United States is Democratic green energy policies. They have driven up energy prices far more than a conflict in Iran. And the conflict in Iran will come to an end. We hope that crazy green energy, drive up energy prices policy of the Democrats at federal and state levels, we hope that comes to an end too.
And remember this, if you want to call it a war or if you want to call it a military operation, you cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And everybody agrees to that, no matter, almost everybody. But wait a minute. Our gasoline prices are lower than they were with Biden. without that. And he would have let them have, in fact, he inspired them to have, frankly, a nuclear weapon, him and Obama. Obama picked the wrong country, you know that. And the Obama deal, I terminated that, or they would have had a nuclear weapon. That was a road to a nuclear weapon. Our deal, if we make that deal, and it's going well, but who knows? If we make that deal, it's the exact opposite. They will never have a nuclear weapon.
It sounds like you're in for as long as it takes.
I'm not going to let them have a nuclear weapon, no. With Obama, it was a road, you know that, it was a road to a nuclear weapon. That was a short-term agreement, and at the end of which they would have a nuclear weapon. So they would have had it 4 years ago. Then we attacked with this beautiful plane right here, the B-2 bomber. We attacked 10 months ago. We attacked their nuclear sites, and they were obliterated. It turned out that, CNN was wrong. They said, well, maybe they weren't hit that hard. They were hit so hard, nobody knows if you can even get it out. But the only ones that have the capability of getting out is us in China. We're the only ones with that kind of equipment that's powerful enough to go down that deep into a mountain. But that mountain crushed it. That mountain literally collapsed on top of it. Those pilots did one hell of a job. And now the atomic energy, as you know, has backed us up on that. They think it's a very, very hard thing to get it. But we'll get it anyway. But we're the only one, and China, I believe China too, but we're the only two that have the capability.
President Joe Biden is out promoting a new book this week. When you met with Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, right here in the Oval Office on November the 13th of 2024, could you detect any cognitive decline in President Biden at that time?
No, not really. I mean, he was the same guy I've been watching for a long time. I mean, you could go back 40 years. I watched him 40 years ago, 30 years ago. He's never the sharpest guy. You do know that, right? It wasn't like he was sharp as a tack. But, no, it was the same guy. They actually invited me here before the election, which was strange. We went here before, but then I met also, as you know, we did the ritual. And, I mean, he was fine as far as I was concerned. I don't know, something happened to him during the debate. It could have been me. I thought I had a very good debate. Nobody ever says that. They say that Biden did badly. What about me? Did I do well? There's a reason he did badly. So the question is, did he do badly because he choked or because he didn't have it? But he didn't have a good, I would say this, he did not have a good night.
But during that time period, you met with him for about 2 hours. You didn't feel he was slowing down?
He spoke softly, very softly. And as we started, I mentioned this to people, he spoke very, very softly, very low. And as we talked, we got along really well, and I thought he was fine. When I say fine, I mean, was he like talking to Doug Burgum? Was he like talking to Chris? Was he like talking to any of these monsters up here, all these tremendous politicians and environmental geniuses? Was he like talking to Andy Barr? No. He was fine.
I have a question about Hunter Biden. He's on social media now, and he has suggested, maybe joking, I don't know, that he could run for president in 2028. How would he do, Hunter Biden, in a 2028 Democratic primary?
Well, you would think that, past has something to do with winning an election, and I would say his past is not the greatest. Where's Hunter? Remember my Where's Hunter? It became the #1 shirt anywhere in the world for about 3 weeks. I'm not going to say bad. I'm sure, hey, if the guy from Maine can do well, I guess Hunter could do well too, because the guy from Maine is a basket case. And I would say worse than him is the one from Texas. That looks like Alfred E. Newman. I would say that if he can do well, maybe Hunter can do well. I'm not sure. It would be pretty close as far as I'm concerned.
And I've got a question about the nuclear dust. So the bombers go in, they entomb a lot of this enriched uranium.
Yeah.
At this point, do you need a deal with Iran to go get it? Or have you thought about just a covert, daring, send in the SEALs, send in the Rangers?
Yeah, but I didn't want to be Jimmy Carter, I didn't feel like being Jimmy Carter.
So that's off.
We did. Well, we thought about it right at the very beginning, before we did what we did, before we destroyed their entire military. We thought about it, and I didn't want to be in a position where you had to get there. It's not like It's not like Venezuela, like you go in, you're there for a matter of minutes, and you're out. And everybody's waving goodbye as you take off. And you've brought the cargo back. This is different. You'd have to be there for 2 weeks. You'd need massive equipment. You'd have to airlift the equipment in. You're in a war zone. And there was a time at the very beginning when we thought about doing that, because they would have not been watching, but they would have found out. I mean, during a period of a week to 2 weeks, you would have had a major construction operation, because that plane, and more importantly, those people that operate those planes, including the mechanics, they flew for 37 hours round trip. Think of that. And the tankers that refilled them 4 times, and what an operation it was. Amazing. And but we would have been, Peter, we would have been there for a period of from a week to 2 weeks. We would have gotten it. But I said, I don't like the idea of that. All of a sudden, they, pinpoint. They still had missiles left. That means they would pinpoint you and just keep lobbing them in until one gets through, and people would have gotten killed. So I didn't like it. We could get it right now. I don't think they could stop us if we wanted, but there's no reason to. It's entombed. You use a good word. It's entombed. We also have cameras on it through Space Force. We have very powerful cameras. Every door, there's a door. You know where the doors go? They go to bad places. But every single place on those mountains is basically three. Because we also hit it with tomahawks after. After that we hit it with tomahawk. Every inch of that land has cameras on it. We have about 9 of them, and they're on, and we cover it. So if anybody even got near it, we would know what we had to do.
And we heard you want to meet with the new Ayatollah, the new supreme leader.
I don't want to meet, but if I did meet, I'd be honored to meet him. I'd like to see if we make a deal. But if we make a deal, it's possible that I would meet him. I'd be okay with
Would
it.
that happen here in the U.S., White House?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't really heard too much about it. I didn't suggest it, but some people have suggested it. If it happened, it would happen. I'd be respectful.
Do you think because Epic Fury killed his dad and his wife and his kid that he's got hard feelings and wouldn't want to meet?
Well, I would say I'm not his favorite person. But with that being said, he's probably I don't know. He's probably a professional. In some circles, he has a very good reputation, actually. Sometimes some people say bad, but a lot of people say bad about me. It's totally false, of course.
Mr. President.
On jobs, tomorrow the jobs report will be released. While the unemployment rate has been steady at 4.3%, the black unemployment rate has been 7.3%. When you ran for president, you courted black voters and talked about what you described as black jobs. How do you describe why this disparity is happening? What can you do to close that?
Well, we're doing very well with the black jobs, African American jobs. I saw some numbers that we're doing really well. But where we're really going to do well is when all these plants are open. We're building many car plants. We're bringing cars back from Germany. We're bringing, we lost the car industry years ago. 54% of the industry went to Germany, Japan, Canada, Mexico. It's all coming back. It's amazing. And where your black worker is really going to do well is when those factories open. So I think they're going to be great. We've been doing very well. It's been a big focus for me. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. On today's announcement, how do you ensure the estimated cost savings are passed on to the consumers and not held by the company? And then on Iran, what specific progress has been made today in talks with them, and where are the sticking points still?
So we're really lowering costs. When I came into this job, we had the highest inflation in the history of our country. 48 years, they say, but I think the history of our country, whether it's 48 years or more. But we had tremendous inflation with Biden, during the Biden. They had one of the highest ever. And I inherited that. The costs were very, very high. And at my first news conference, Peter and others were screaming at me about eggs. Remember, Peter? Eggs. What about eggs? Maybe it wasn't you.
About the eggs.
But I wanted to inject Peter into it. But he was screaming to me about eggs. And I said, "What? Tell me about eggs." This is 2 days in. They said eggs had quadrupled. I said, well, they didn't quadruple under me. And they didn't want me to order eggs for the Easter egg hunt that was going to take place in a few months, right? And I said, nope, we're not going to. They wanted me to order plastic eggs. And I said, nope.
And we got eggs down to lower than what it was long prior to when I took over. And eggs today are about 15% lower. What we had is a bunch of con artists, the Democrats, and what they did is they said they left. They gave the highest prices that we've ever had for all products, groceries, everything, and they started saying affordability. They'd say this is about affordability. It's a con job. I inherited their high prices. We brought those prices way down. And and if you go back 3 months ago, if you go back before the war started, think of it, 3 months. So with Vietnam, we were there for 19 years. With Iraq, it was about 9 years. With another one, it was about 12 years. And with another one, we had all these wars that lasted for 9, 10, 12, 19 years for Vietnam. Think of it. And they said, you're in there for 3 months. This is a terrible thing. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers have been killed in these other wars. We lost not one soldier in that Israel. We didn't lose one soldier. And we lost a total of 13, which is 13 too many. But when you look at hundreds of thousands of soldiers were killed in these various wars, they lasted many, many years. We're in there for a few months, and what we've done is amazing. They won't have a nuclear weapon. And it was tough because we just got, Doug and everybody came in to see me, we just got the best numbers. Well, today, again, the New York Stock Exchange and every other exchange just hit a new all-time high. That's 73 days out of my short term. We've hit brand new highs. Every 401k is setting records. Now, 401ks, a lot of people have. You probably all have 401ks. Look at your 401k. You're happy about your 401k? You know, the nice reporters are smiling at me, and the stupid reporters are like that. But their 401ks are setting records. They should be happy. They shouldn't be angry. They should be very happy. But 401ks are setting records. They've never had anything like it. So, you know, we've done a good job. As far as Iran's concerned, you're going to find out what the deal is. But the main parts of the deal is they can't have a nuclear weapon. The Strait will open immediately. You know, it's going to open immediately. And we've largely swept for mines. We have the most sophisticated mines. They're underwater minesweepers. I actually said to somebody, one of the generals, why underwater? He said, because usually it's hostile. You know, when you're looking for mines, typically it's not in a good neighborhood, right? So underwater made a lot of sense. When it didn't take long to figure that one out. So I think we're doing very well, but we're going to see if we're going to win one way or the other. We're going to win on paper, or we're going to win military. One way or the other. It's going to be militarily or on paper.
Mr. President, yes, Mr. President, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. How critical is energy dominance, whether it be coal, whether it be LNG, whether it be oil, to national security?
Without it, you can't win. As an example, AI is a big deal. Whether we like it, not like it, it's going to be amazing in many ways. It's going to be, I think, for medical, it will be amazing. But without massive amounts of energy, you can't even play the game. And we're leading China by a lot in AI. I was talking to President Xi about it. But if we didn't do, Lee Zeldin's done so great because, number one, fast approvals from professionals. You know, you'd have the best firms in the world submitting papers to them. And we didn't keep them waiting for 10 years and then vote against them after 10 years. Guys would file with the environmental for a plant of some kind. After 15 years, they would be rejected. It was terrible. Now we have great professionals there, and we only accept plans from great professionals, but we give them fast turnaround, and it's been really amazing. I think the biggest thing we've done, Lee, is we let these geniuses with all this money build their own electric plant. We don't take it from our grid. We let them build their own plant. They become a utility. So they're building a plant, and at the same time, they're building electricity. Because if we didn't do that, you couldn't have anything. You couldn't have, and we're letting that happen too with car plants and other plants. If they want to build their own electric, but with the AI, you know, you hear so much about it. But one of the biggest things, they build their own, and then excess energy that they create will go back into the grid. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, on Cuba, Mr. President.
Just let him have one.
Mr. President, Secretary Rubio was in Delhi last week. He delivered a letter from you to Prime Minister Modi. And sir, you also addressed people of India through your favorite ambassador, Sergio Gore.
That's right.
Yeah. Both of them have said the trade deal is around the corner. Where do you stand on the trade deal with India?
Well, we have it. And, you know, look, India,
for years has, and I don't blame them, I blame us because we had stupid people here. India for years really took advantage of the United States. You know that. Are you from India by any chance? Huh? I thought you were from Germany.
I'm from India.
I'm only kidding. You're central casting, okay? And that's a very good thing. India for years took advantage of this country. They charged us tremendous tariffs, and they paid nothing. They wouldn't let Harley, as an example in the past, they wouldn't let Harley Davidson sell us motor. They would charge 200% tariff. So Harley Davidson was precluded. They ended up going to India and building their own plants, which is unfortunate that that happened, but it happens. It was before me. But they charged tremendous amounts of tariffs to our company, and we didn't charge them anything. You know, they sold motorbikes here too. You know we charged them? Nothing. And now it's the exact reverse. And we're making a lot of money with India. But we'll get to a deal, because I like your Prime Minister a lot. He's a good friend of mine. Get along great, and we're going to make a deal. We have a very good relationship.
Mr. President, yes. Speaking of deals, Mr. President, on Cuba, are your sanctions on Cuba meant to accelerate its collapse?
No, it's just we just want them to be a nicely run country that can feed its people. Look, it's a failed nation. Without Venezuela, Venezuela, because it has such wealth in the ground, mostly in the ground. But Venezuela took care of them for years, and they took care of Venezuela. They were like the bodyguards. When we went in and burst into their country, the Venezuelans were guarding Maduro and everybody else. It was mostly, the soldiers were, in that case, we had a lot of Cubans were guarding. The Cubans were the guards, and they're good soldiers. But the country is starving, and it's got no energy, it's got no oil, it's got no money, it's got nothing. It's got a beautiful piece of land. You could have beautiful resorts. It doesn't have oil, but Venezuela was giving them the money to survive, and now, the money is, I guess you could say, is coming to us and is going to Venezuela. Venezuela's been an amazing thing because we've paid for the cost of the attack many, many times over. And it's been a long time since you've
Do you think that Cuba is close to collapsing, though, based on everything you just laid out? Do you think that Cuba is close to collapsing?
It sort of collapsed. And we're going to handle that as soon as we've finished. I like to do one thing at a time. And we'll take care of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And as soon as that's done on our way back, we'll just make a little brief stop.
Mr. President.
We'll take care of it. We want to help them out. Look, we have a lot of people that voted for Trump. Whether they did or not, it didn't matter. But I had 95% of the Cubans voted for me. They're unbelievable people. They're energetic. They're entrepreneurial. Some of the richest people in Miami are Cuban. They're unbelievable. And I'm going to take good care of them. I'm going to let them go back to their land. They want to be back with family. They have a lot of family over there. They've been treated very badly by Cuba. But we're going to treat Cuba well, and we're going to let our people go back and let them invest in Cuba if they'd like. So we have some very good plans for Cuba. I think, we have to get rid of the regime was very tough, very nasty. The difference is now they don't have money coming in. They had a lot of money coming in from Venezuela. They don't have any money coming. They had oil coming in. They had money coming in. But we're going to take care of Cuba.
Mr. President, sir. Mr. President.
And you know what? They want us to. The people want us there so bad.
Mr. President, sir. Last night, huge night for the city of New York. The Knicks won Game 1 of the NBA Finals. There's been a lot of speculation. Have you decided whether or not you want to attend a game at Madison Square?
Well, I've been a Knicks fan for a long time, and I'm also a Jim Dolan fan. He's a nice guy, okay? He's been a long time wanting to win, and he's a competitive guy, and he's got a team that's amazing. I don't think they've lost a playoff game.
12 straight wins.
Can you imagine that? And it was not looking good. I saw the beginning of the game, and it wasn't looking good. I missed the middle because I talked to generals all night long now. But I watched that end of the game, and they were dominant. Really amazing. And Wemby's a great player. He's going to be a great player, and he is already a great player. I say, how do you guard this guy? 7'5", and he's got a great shot, right? But they find a way to do it. They're really great. They're a great team. And I'm happy for Jim, because Jim has really been fighting hard to, produce such a team. So you never know. The answer is yes. He's invited me. I'm going.
Which game have you decided, sir?
Say it?
Game 3, Game 4. Are you excited?
It could be Monday, yeah, Monday.
Mr. President, speaking of New York.
The automakers.
Maybe I'll do both.
You mentioned your meeting with the automakers yesterday. Can you tell us a little bit about that, more about that in particular? Did you discuss trade, tariffs?
I did. We had a great meeting with the auto worker. I mean, most of them were here. They were really talking about the fix your own car kind of a thing, right? But they're doing very well since I'm in office because I got rid of a lot of environmental restrictions. And in fact, you might just tell them a little bit about that, Lee. We made it so much easier for them to build a car. They can build a less expensive car that's much better. And they were so choked up with environmental nonsense that in order to save 4 ounces of gasoline, you had to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. Lee, do you want to go into that?
President Trump, we sent to Congress 3 Biden EPA waivers to California that Congress passed, President Trump signed last year, getting rid of the electric vehicle mandate that a whole bunch of other states had signed on to. Just a couple of months ago, President Trump announced here at the White House the largest act of deregulation in the history of the United States, the repeal of the 2009 endangerment finding. All the greenhouse gas emission standards in light, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles were following the law. And what that means for cost of living, just on that act alone, $2,400 more affordable per vehicle for Americans. The victories come out every single day. President Trump gave us very clear guidance. He wanted us to act at Trump speed to get this done as fast as possible. And what you see now all across America is billions upon billions of investments all across this country with new factories being built. They believe in America. They're investing in America with the American jobs to come up with it. And by the way, consumer choice, we got rid of that climate participation trophy for that annoying start-stop feature in cars to make your car die at every stop sign and red light. So yeah, the gifts, the receipts, the wins, they keep coming, and we're just getting started.
Did they ask you for any tariff changes on auto imports?
No, they didn't do that. They're making so much money now because, I did something else that, I don't know, does it because we have no tax on tips and no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, right? So that's really been big. That's turned out to be much bigger than anyone knew. If you look at the people, they're saving from $5,000 to $7,000, $8,000 even on average because of that. So it's been good. But I did something else that nobody talks about. If you buy a car and you borrow money, you're allowed to deduct the interest for income tax purposes. Never happened before. And deductions were always meant for rich people. They weren't meant for middle-class people or other people wanting to buy a car. So now you're allowed to get a deduction of your interest payment. That's a tremendous thing. I mean, but what's the key? Only if the car is made in America. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Great.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
It's moving very well. Todd is very popular. He's doing great.
Thank you guys. 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 Thank you.
And thank you for watching here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. You know, President Trump speaking with the press prior to announcing $700 million in federal spending for the United States coal industry. So good stuff there. I also heard about the $250 bill there. So we'll see. I created this on Grok. You can do the same if you'd like, if you have an X account. I'll post that on X and maybe Truth Social. Do you really think that a $250 bill will have President Trump's portrait on it? Yeah, weigh in on the poll if you'd like at Truth Social. It's at Matthew Alvarez, and then on X it'll be at Matthew US Media. I'll do that right after I get off the air here. Kind of a fun thing to talk about. Also, before we conclude our broadcast, let's go to All Family Pharmacy. June, of course, is finally here, and you know what that means. Traveling, vacation, kids are out of school, and most likely you're running around like a wild person. Of course, as the head of your household, you need to make sure everything is ready to go. You have the food and drinks stocked, but did you get everyone's medicine? Did you get your son's antibiotics or your wife's allergy medication? Because the last thing you want in the middle of a vacation is to need medications that you can't get. That's why All Family Pharmacy is here. You could be prepared with everyday prescriptions, emergency medications, and more. From hormone and thyroid support to weight loss, energy, antibiotics, antivirals, even anti-aging and hair support, it's all in one place. You order online and they handle everything for you without the runaround. They even take care of the doctor's prescription if you don't have one and will ship everything directly to your door. So you can get what you need now so you don't have to worry later. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN and use that code RSBN today. And RSBN 10 is that promo code. You get that 10% off and you can be prepared, of course, for summer. Meantime, we are exactly 30 days from the 4th of July as we will have live coverage from Washington, D.C. to celebrate America's independence. And before we close our broadcast, let's go to a couple videos from the White House.
250 years is a long time in the life of a nation, but in another sense, it's really a mere moment in the eye of history. On July 4th, 1826, the author of the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson, drew his last breath. Just a single long human lifespan separates the giants who declared and won our independence from the heroes who stand among us tonight. Everything our nation has done, everything we have achieved, has been the work of those few great lifetimes. In those brief chapters, Americans built this nation from 13 humble colonies into the pinnacle of human civilization and human freedom, the strongest, wealthiest, most powerful, most successful nation in all of history. Americans ventured out across the daunting and dangerous continent. We carved paths through an unforgiving wilderness, settled a boundless frontier, and tamed the beautiful but very, very dangerous Wild West. From empty marshes and wide open plains, we raised up the world's greatest cities. Together we mastered the world's mightiest industries, and shattered history's monstrous tyrannies, and we liberated millions from the chains of fascism, communism, oppression, and terror. Americans lifted humanity into the skies on the wings of aluminum and steel, and then we launched mankind into the stars on rockets powered by sheer American will and unyielding American pride. We captivated the planet with American culture, and now we are pioneering the next great American breakthroughs that will change the entire world. All of this and so much more is the enduring legacy, unmatched glory of the hardworking patriots who built and defended this country, because when the world needs courage, daring, vision, and inspiration, it is still turning to America. There is no challenge Americans cannot overcome, no frontier too vast for us to conquer, no dream too bold for us to chase, no horizon too distant for us to claim. For our destiny is written by the hand of Providence, and these first 250 years were just the beginning. The golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot. And our future will be bigger, better, brighter, bolder, and more glorious than ever before.
Of the early great American leaders, there is one who does not get enough credit: Henry Clay. He was Speaker of the House, a senator, and Secretary of State. And it was Henry Clay who helped shape the early republic at a moment when its survival was far from guaranteed. And Henry Clay understood a hard truth the country had already begun to learn. Political liberty cannot survive atop economic dependency. The War of 1812 made that reality unmistakable. Foreign supply chains collapsed, so did America's sense of security. A nation that cannot produce what it needs is a vulnerable nation. So Henry Clay asked a simple question, one that still echoes today. Does this policy make America stronger? Henry Clay's answer was the American system. With this American system, Clay took up Alexander Hamilton's mantle and embraced tariffs to build industry, finance to fuel growth, and infrastructure to bind a sprawling continent into a single economic unit. These policies turned the United States from a small infant country into the world's most powerful economy. But over the decades, Washington drifted. We outsourced our strength and called it progress. We forgot the lessons that our country, that Henry Clay, had learned right from the start. Because to Henry Clay, the principle was simple. A nation that cannot make what it needs will not remain sovereign. Now, that tradition is returning. On the occasion of Henry Clay's 249th birthday, President Donald Trump has brought him back into the White House complex itself by naming a historic conference room and suite after this great patriot, visionary, and tariff man. This is not just a name on a door, but a living reminder. Economic nationalism isn't new. It isn't foreign. It is American. It is Henry Clay.
All right, welcome back. All right, so we're going to wrap up our broadcast, but tomorrow, of course, the president will be heading to Wisconsin for a roundtable. That is scheduled to start at 4 o'clock Eastern. However, of course, join us live prior to that. It's kind of becoming a party sometimes when you join us prior to it, depending on what we cover, what we talk about, who we interview. And also, again, for those of you on Truth Social and on X, I just posted that poll if you'd like to take part. It's a simple question. Will there really be a $250 bill with President Trump's portrait on it? Well, you can check out some of the poll results right now. I think it's out there for at least 48 hours to vote if you'd like. It's at Matthew Alvarez on Truth Social, at Matthew US Media on X. And if you'd like to follow us here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, it's at RSBN on Truth and at RSB Network on X. This all brought to you by some great sponsors, including mypillow.com/RSBN. The Father's Day sale. Of course, Father's Day is June 21st. I had to look that up this morning. Father's Day sale right there with mypillow.com. A ton of great products to purchase for dad or for someone in your life there. Father's Day sale, June 21st. Also, if you'd like to donate to Right Side, just go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. It's rsbnetwork.com/donate. For all of us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll see you tomorrow for President Trump's roundtable in Wisconsin.